Close the doors of your mind from all carnal will, all carnal thought. Close the mind of your yetzer, your imaginations, your mukashaba within yourself, from all demonic thought, all your carnal will, all your carnal thought, all emotions, all desires, all fears, all laziness, all doubt, all demonic thoughts of the powers of Mastama that tries to bound one's mind and brings one's mind to a mind of desolation. For today is a day of freedom. Today is a day of warning. Today is the day that Yahuwah has given to us as another Shabath, that we may cease from all our labors, all our ways and our thoughts, that he may ride upon the high places upon the wings of the wind, that he may feed us with our akla, our food, that we may walk in newness of life, that we may go on the strength of this food till next week. So as we move forward in the light of Yahushua Mashiach, in the light of life through his understanding and his resurrection, but also we move forward in the guiding light of Yahuwah Elohim, because everything he does is right, whether it's good or evil, whether he sins, what he gives, and whether he takes away, whether he wounds, whether he sins, he kills, and he makes alive, Yahuwah Elohim. So this day we acknowledge the one who made all of the horror of the earth, and in the horror of the earth, all the rivers and streams, the one who gives light and darkness, and one who gives orb to the mind, strength joined to the mind, to both male and female, as his eyes on the earth, the one who allows us to walk in newness of life and to destroy Aydahchay and all the other beings in the Shadim that try to enhance our mind through falsehood and cause us to breathe out lies from our belly to our lips and allow our heart and our mind to walk in newness of life. So as we move forward in kindness, we move forward in ahab, joy, peace, patience, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, knowing that self-control of ourselves is the deciding factor of if one can actually bring all things into subjection under their feet. And that's even oneself, even one's flesh. Right, so this is the book of Nazarene, actually the Shalakim, suggestions of the old serpent. Above all, therefore, you ought to understand the deception of the old serpent, right? The ancient serpent, the dragon, the Lahuyathan, the Leviathan, the one who takes control of your mind, the one who doesn't allow your heart and your mind to, lift your hands. Lift your hands in a noof and wave the sheaf. Whether it's privately, presently, or in front of people. It says right here, deception of the old serpent, his cunning suggestions, who deceives you as it were by prudence. He's going to deceive your mind. That's the only point. That's the only reason he's only there for. He's only to deceive you. Like Yahushua said, let no ish, man, woman, deceive you. Right? That doesn't matter. Like in this day and age, it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, social media. These are the things that can deceive you. They can take over your mind. He said they can take over your fingers. They can take over your 10 and 11. They can take over your yod and your kaf, and have your yod and your kaf, and your yetzer and your imaginations and your lob, your lamed and your ba'if that teach you your body and have you doing so many things with your two hands, your 10, 11, your yod and your kaf, of the alephis, and you won't even know what to do. And it says, and as by reason creeps through your senses, deceiving you a great gain. He's going to creep through he comes in like a smoke through your nose. And he said, deceiving you, it's great gain. Think about how much value you have now by understanding when Yahushua Mashiach and understanding who he is according to Torah. You have a lot of value on the inside of your heart. And he's coming to take that away. And it says, therefore he enunciates in your minds opinions of Elohim and whatever kinds, only that your sins is his comfort. He only wants to see if he wants you to stay in sin. He wants us to stay in a stubborn mind, stay in a hard heart, stay in a blind-like state. Because he knows if you walk outside the door and you ain't paying attention, he's going to grab you, just like any other animal that you would see, like a lion, a bear. He's waiting for you. He wants you to close your eyes. And there's a reason why he wants us to do this every single day, every single morning, evening, noon, during the day. There's a reason. Therefore, he enunciates in your minds opinions of Elohim or whatever kinds, only that your sins is his comfort, right? He wants your sins to be his comfort. He wants you to continue to be in your mind. He wants you to continue to walk in sin. He wants you to continue to cause other people to commit sin. He wants you to continue to walk in a stubborn, hateful, self-centered, proud mind towards Yahuwah Elohim and towards others. He said male and female. And it said right here, for his immorality was condemned from the beginning to eat dust, just like he was the serpent in the garden, the Chdsh. He was condemned to walk on his belly, and he told the woman, you're going to bruise his head, he's going to bruise your heel. But then you see Yahushua Mashiach, as we spoke about, He was on the ground. He said, one of you had lifted your heel up against me. And he was talking about Judas because he was just like the serpent. But he was that woman that was going to beat him over the head and hit him. And not even knowing that was Yahushua Mashiach being beat when they hit him in the head with a reed. But it says right here, he said, you were condemned to death, for that he caused to be again resolved into dust him who was taken from the dust, even till the time when your beings were restored, being brought through the fire, as we will instruct you fully at another time. How many times we've been brought through the fire? How many times has one been brought through the fire? Through Ish. Ayin Ish Lapid. How many times have one been through fiery trials in their life? How many times have one has been through things that they never thought they would come out of? How many times? It's all given to you by Yahuwah that you may defeat Satan all, and his beings, right? And it says right here, for that he caused to be again resolved to dust him who was taken from death, even to the time your beings will be taken through the fire, right? Going over. It says, from him therefore proceeds all errors and doubts. So he says, you still have errors and doubts even after the third day, after the first day, even taking a lamb and understanding who he is and understanding that, and he gave you a barak, while on totality, and he darkened it in a clear day and made it midnight and allowed you to sit there and watch him, and he gave you a barak, and he caught you in the second and third watch, and he said, barak are those servants, he gave you one, and he says, you still have error and doubts about it? He says, it's because he, like Cain we spoke about, he has taken a place in your mind. That's the only reason. By which you are driven from Amunah, faith, or faithfulness, as we talk about with the children of Yasharah, faithfulness, says, driven from Amunah and belief in one Elohim Yahuwah, because he wants you to worship idols. That's when he creates that error and doubt. He wants you to worship idols. He wants you to worship yourself. Right? People say, worship yourself. Yeah, he wants you to worship you. Right? He wants you to serve you. Why? Because you continue to do it, and he said, then you become his disciple. And by becoming his disciple, it'll be a great gain for him. Right? This is the book of Qahalath, Ecclesiastes 12, 1 through 7. Remember thou now thy creator in the days of thy Bakaruth. Right? In the days of your youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when you say, I have no pleasure in them. You say, how old are you? He said, according to 365 days time period, you're older. According to 364, you're younger. He said, how old do you want to be? And it says right there, it says right here, and it says, you have no pleasure in them. While the sun, verse 2 says, while the sun or light or moon or stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. So we look at all these things, that these elements that are created on the fourth day of creation, and then he talks about rain, which is made only, and you think about rain. Think about going from the fourth day of creation to the third day of creation. And then it says, in the day that when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out the windows be darkened. He's talking about the night watchman. Just like you are a night of much watching. We didn't know what a watch was without a woman. Without the light to rule over the night, you wouldn't even know what a night watch was. You know the woman that looked out the window in Proverbs 7? You know the person looked out the window? He said you wouldn't even know what that was. In the night watch. He said without a lesser light. But it says right here, verse 4, and the doors shut. It says verse 4 says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low. It says right here, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird. All the daughters of the music shall be brought low. It's the same thing when it comes to when you do your morning sacrifice. When you do your morning sacrifice and you hear the cock crow, he said all of the songs of the music shall be brought low. He said, because that's what's going to happen as you get older. That's why he said, remember in your Bakaruth, days of your youth. And it said right here, verse 5, also when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fears shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshoppers shall be a burden, and the desires fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the streets. Or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern, then shall the dust, I said, dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the ruach return unto Yahuwah who gave it. How you say? The thing, the breath, the gift that he gave you, he's going to take it. And he's going to take it back to where he's going to bring it back to himself. He's going to bring it back to himself till he can judge it. That's what he's going to do. And he said, that's why he says, remember in the days of your Bakaruth, because when he judges your ruach, it's going to be based upon what you did in your body. Right, so this is the word for remember, and the word for youth is Bakaruth. It means the youth. Young men. It says young woman, right? All that, Bakaruth. Right, so when it says, then shall the dust return as it was, and the ruach, and the spirit shall return to Yahuwah. That word for spirit is ruach, of course we know that, but it says the wind, the mind, the ruach, right? The state of prophecy, the energy of right here, the energy of life. Yeah, your energy, your vibrational energy inside of your body is going back to Yahuwah. Everything you did is in your body. It's going back to him. The same way you offer up prayers and new and you sing songs, you create songs with other people, you do these things. And you do good deeds, be a servant, Abyd. All this is all a part of your inward man. It's just like being at a job and you clock in and you clock out. You get into a job and you go into a job and then you start to do your work. And by doing that, then you produce things. And if you don't do anything, you won't produce anything. And he said, and then there are other things, right? But it also means anger, life, right? Because that's a whole nother subject, right? But here we go. Verse is it going through the same book? Yeah. Verse 8 says, Ha'abal, it says right here, verse 8 says, Ha'abal says, the Qahalath, all is Ha'abal, right? Only reason I did that, it says vanity among vanities, right? Qahalath, that is what you call the preacher, the lecturer. Ha'abal, right? So you say, why would they have Ha'abal, Qahalath, right? It's all vanity. Everything we just read is vanity because it's all going to go back to the dust. Verse 9 says, and moreover, because the Qahalath was wise, he taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed and sought out and set in order many mashali. The Qahalath sought to find acceptable words. That which was written was upright, even the word of truth. The word of the wise, or kakam, right? The kakam are as golds and as nails fastened, and the baha'al of the assemblies, right? And then it says right here, which are given from one. And further by these, my son, be za'ar, right? Be warned. Of making of books there is no end, and much study, or Yigidah, is Yigidah of the flesh. And yet what it says, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, right? Fear Yahuwah and keep his commands, for this is the whole duty of Adam. For Yahuwah will bring every work into judgment, and every secret thing, whether it be good or evil, right? Because you ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you partook of it. Now you got to have your members exercise to discern between Tau and Ra. And it's not gonna just come overnight. It's it's a continual process of understanding. And if you are desiring to hear milk, then guess what? You're not gonna have your members exercise to discern between Tau and Ra, right? But it says right here, that word for ha'abal, it means what? It says ha'abal says Qahalath, all is ha'abal, right? That word ha'abal is vapor, breath. It's emptiness right here. So it's all emptiness and vanity. That's all it is. Everything I said is emptiness and vanity. Breath, it's a what? Emptiness. It's all emptiness. It's a vapor. It's like steam on a stove when you're cooking food. It's just like the steam that rises up as you take something out of the oven, and then you don't see it anymore. That's how your life is. And he said, why would you waste it? It says right here, right? So Colossians chapter 2, 6 through 10, right? It said, we talked about the word emptiness. Here we go. Therefore, as you have received Mashiach Yahushua, the Master, so walk in him. He said, you received it. Just like Ezra, what did Ezra say to himself? He said, Nafash. He said, devour understanding and receive wisdom. You got to tell yourself that. Because you know why? Because Satan is going to create Satan all, Abunalek, Alpharis, Aldi, Aldal, Abiwi, Koros, destroyer of authority. He said he'll take over your mind. He said they'll all take over your consciousness. Aktun, they'll all take over your body. Gaun, they all will. Ataf, they will take over your body. Mustama, he said no, they won't. Yes, they will. Zaphon, how you say? They all will. Asmodeus, right? But it says right here, it says what? He says what? Walk in him. You got to walk in him because Yahushua Mashiach defeated all of them. He said death is swallowed in victory. He defeated them all. While he was in the flesh, he was just like you and me, male. He was like just like a male. You see a female, male. He fulfilled female things in the Torah, and male. So people say you have no excuse. He did it all. He said, "Oh, I'm this. I'm in my Mishra cycle." Well, Yahushua fulfilled that too. Now he spoke about before. He fulfilled all of that. I'm in this mindset. I'm like the moon. He said Yahushua was like the moon too. He fulfilled that too. He said, so how is one going to be able to say, I didn't know? He said, let no man deceive you by any means. I ain't never been deceived. I've been deceived. And Yahushua said in the garden, remember you said, the serpent deceived me. You said it in the garden. And then I said it in Matthew 24, let no man deceive you. So he said, who is that? He's going to say, whose fault is that? He said it's going to be the lack of, studying, the lack of doing the things that one needs to do, the lack of focusing one's mind. Verse 7 says, rooted and built up in him and established in Amunah, just as you were taught, abounding in thanksgiving, abounding in Yadah and praise. Why? Because he said, as it's taught to you, then you understand it. Verse 8 says, see to it that no one takes you captive. You say, how can somebody take you captive? You can pick up your cell phone, pick up your computer. You can walk by the way, lie down, you rise up. You can go down the street. Satan meet you. You can walk. You can travel another country. Satan meet you. Right? You can travel to another place. Satan to transform himself into a molecule of light. And get what it says. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, vanity among vanities. Ba'al, vanity among vanities, empty deceit. And it says right here, according to human traditions. What are human traditions? Jealousy, envy, strife, complaining, pride, arrogance, laziness, sexual morality, fornication, adultery. These are all human, traditions. Human nature is to do that. Right? That's all human nature. Anger, resentment, bitterness, dissension, rivalries. That's human nature. Hatred, jealousy, envy. This is all human nature. This is all the human parts of ourselves that one has to, stand on top of and rule over. Right? All that's a part of it. Focusing, right, is a part of it. It says traditions, according to the elementary spirits of the world, because that's all they are. They're all spirits. Right? It's just like go to the store and it says, house of spirits, place of spirits, and you pick which one you want. There's so many. It says, and not according to Mashiach, and you're going to leave Yahushua Mashiach and one Amunah and one Elohim, because error and doubt has now creeped in. For in him is the whole fullness deity dwells bodily, and you have been filled in him, who is the head of all rule and authority. he is the head of all rule and authority. That's who he is. He's the head of all rule and authority. And he said he is the master of everybody who are immersed in his name. And it says right here, that word philosophy is philosia. It means philosia, or it says Jewish sophistry. I don't know. And then it says right here, philosophy is a simple term. Philosophy is exploration of the fundamental questions about existence, knowledge, values, and the meaning of life, achieved through critical thinking and reasoning. It says reason analysis. Why? Because we know Yahuwah by his debar made the Shamaim and earth, the sea, before they even was, using his the word. By the word of Yahuwah in Psalm 33, the Shamaim were made. And we read in Proverbs chapter 3 so many times. It says, my son and daughter, do not lose sight of these things. If you don't, he said what? Yahuwah your sleep won't be sweet. Yahuwah gonna send Malachi to protect you. But as soon as you go outside of that, and he said, as soon as you start leaning to your own understanding and your emotions and your thoughts and who you think you are, then guess what happens? Then you'll be giving up. When it says right here, it says sophistry. So that word for sophistry, right? The use of fallacious arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving. So that's a Yahudi, or somebody else, like a teacher, that is trying to intentions of deceiving you by creating these fallacious arguments about what you believe. That's all it is. That's the only reason they're doing it, because they want to deceive you. And then if you allow these things to enter your mind, then it becomes a part of you. Just like anything, if you eat something from the store with 35 ingredients, right? The word fallacious, it says the word fallacious means, right, that word fallacious, right? Because it said fallacious argument. Fallacious is treating serious issues with deliberate or inappropriate humor. He's like, this is like a serious issue. He said, you treating it with humor. He said, if you start doing this, that means you've been poisoned by philosophy. And it says, lacking proper respect or seriousness, right? That's why you look at seriousness. He said, how serious of a mind does one need to be at when they hear the bar? He said, you gotta be very serious. Then it says, that word deceit, it says, that was just for philosophy, right? And that word deceit is apate in Greek, G539. It means deceitfulness, deceivable, delusion. He said delusion. He said, see to it that nobody does it, both male, female, even child, son, daughter, mother, father, sister, brother, teacher, doesn't matter. Title, person, it doesn't matter. Physics professor, quantum physics professor, doctorate program, nursing programs, it doesn't matter. It'll bring your mind to what? And then it'll say delusion, a false belief. That's what a delusion is, a false belief or judgment. Then your judgments are going to be upon philosophy and not the debar. What does the word say? What are Yahuwah's commandments? Is it written in your heart? What did he say in Psalms 119, going from the Aleph to the 2, about putting things before your eyeing? Right? What did he say about how one needs to conduct themselves when they hear the bar? He said he judges in the midst of the gods. He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. So he said, is he in the midst of you? He said, or is Satan in the midst of you? Because that's the reason why he brings the bar, to separate soul and ruach and discern the tents of the heart, so that one can now separate themselves mentally. Like we talk about separating mentally, right? You separating mentally what is right and what is wrong. And then one sees, and Yahuwah sees these things, and then he says, okay, so what's wrong with this person mentally? And we're going to find out too. A false belief or judgment about external reality held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary occurring especially in mental conditions, right? So he says, because your mind has been mentally programmed from birth to present to only think and operate in a one-dimensional way. It's just like two one-dimensional ways. You got a one-dimensional, you only can go forward and back. Two-dimensional, you go forward, back, left, and right. Three-dimensional is forward, back, left, right, up, down, and then it has breadth, width, depth, and height. If you can't think on this capacity, then he calls this a mental condition of what? Not discerning how to build. Like when we look at a building, it has breadth, width, depth, and height. Also, not only it has breadth, width, depth, and height, it allows you to go forward, back, left, and right. It allows you to go up and down. All composite of your body. And then when you go to four-dimensional is something you can't see. They call it a tesseract when you join two tesseracts together, or two three-dimensional minds together, and you create an unseen force, like tesseract. That's like a male and female with the same mind, or people come with the same mind. 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, and they join together and they create this building. It's the same thing when it comes to yourself. And then that construct builds up. He said, but when you have a person, how you say, when a human being doesn't have the same mind, it becomes a burden. Right? It becomes a burden. Right? And then you say, when it becomes a burden, then that becomes Yahuwah's anger. And so Ecclesiastes 12 and 11 says, the word of the wise, right? So we went there because of that empty word. So we were talking about emptiness. We were talking about a ball. But it says right here, going back to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, it says, the words of the wise are as goads, right? The word for wise is kakam. It's wise, skillful, learned, crafty, cunning, right? You're understanding it on that level. I'm understanding on that level, and I'm building from block to block. If I don't build from block to block, if I don't build with a certain pattern, that's why when you hear these things, if you go all the way back to the first message I did up until now, it's all a building construction project. If you go all the way back, it's a building construction project. Every single block that's laid is only there to build something. Right? And it depends if people want, you say you want to build on top of it, it's all a building. That's all it is. That's why we say, why would you start off as Abyd? Because it starts with an ayin and it means to serve. Because the greatest among you going to be as the youngest, and the leader is the one who Abyd. Because everybody is an Abyd or a sheep. Not for themselves, not even to please themselves, but to please other people, to help other people. Right? And it's only to do what? To please Yahuwah, not to please other people. Because that's the only thing that pleases Yahuwah. People think, if I say, you say, I'm not going to please man, yeah, of course. He said, you won't be the servant of Mashiach, because you're going to be so busy trying to please everybody else, and you ain't even going to be at his feet. How you say, learning like Martha was doing. She's like, Martha, she chose a thing that can't be taken away. But you keep on trying to please men, and then by the time you figure it out, your life will be over with. And it's just like a vapor. Right? And it says kakam, it says cunning, wise, skillful, wise man or woman, because a Qahalath is also a female instructor, if she wants to do that. Right? Because there are certain things that a woman does, if a man even tried to even attempt to explain it on a level that some people can't understand. Some people won't receive it. Right? They won't. Right? So this is the word of the wise, or as gold, right? That word for gold is just this. The word for gold is dorbon. Dorbon, right? It means a goad. It means to stimulate, right? So everything that I'm saying is, he say, I'm trying to stimulate you. Just like a stem, like I'm trying to stimulate you. Like he talks about, it'll be healing to your soul and refreshment to your bones. He said, I'm trying to stimulate you. To stimulate you to actually go beyond what he said, go beyond what one has done last year. I'm trying to stimulate you to go beyond that. He said, I'm trying to push your mind to go beyond you. Right? Because we know that death and life is in the power of the tongue, but when one hears the bar and then they speak the very things that the bar says, opposite of what it says, then you take yourself down to something that you should not be. The word goad is provoke and annoy. He said, yep. He said that's what wise words does. it says provoke one to stimulate someone, some action or reaction. He said, I'm trying to create an action or reaction. Why? Because an action produces a reaction. It's a contra to each other. Action, reaction. Action, reaction. If I do good deeds, the reaction will be, wow, you're such a kind person. You're such a loving and caring person. Your children will rise up and call you Barak. Your husband will also. Right? All that's a part of what? Stimulation. Right? I stimulate you. Right? So that way said the word of the wise are as nails. Of course, you know it's masmar. Right? It means peg, nail. Just like Yahushua was nailed in his hands. And he told Thomas, he said, handle my hands and see. On the fourth day, he confirmed it. It's just like nails in his hands. That's what he was trying to show you. He was trying to show you how wise he was. And he was trying to stimulate you to believe that he is the son of Yahuwah. The Elohim of the highest Shamayim above the 13 Shamayim above the 7 heavens. He was trying to stimulate you. That's all he was trying to do. I'm trying to stimulate your mind to understand what the 6th letter of the alphabet is. It's a tent peg. It's a nail. Right? It's a nail, right? So the word for that, like he says, fashioned by the Baal is the symbol. That word for Baal is a husband, right? Owner, relationship, master of dreams, right? So the only reason why did I put this? Because remember, what did the Qahalath say? He said Baal, right? Baal, it means vanity among vanities. Because remember, Yahushua came to free us from our vanities in our thought process and our empty minds. Because he's been spoiled by empty words and deceit. So he came to free people from deceit and people deceiving you. So that's why he came here and said, remember the Creator in the days of your youth. You know, when you weren't deceived, when it was easy for you to recognize something on, when you were able to do it in your vigor. He said, don't even forget. He said, remember, everything you're doing is all vanity is Baal. You have been deceived from the time that you've been born. Because Yahushua ain't even come on the scene when this was written. That's why he confirmed it on the 4th day by stretching out his hand. He showed you the nails. He said, now you went from Baal being your master to me being your master. Because he used to be your master. And matter of fact, what you see in the middle of Baal, he used to be the person that make you see all your vanities among vanities. That was your sight. All you knew was vanity among vanities. That's why he had the ayin right in the middle of it. And you know what Bayis means house? The ayin means seed, the lamed. That's the teacher. That was the teacher of your life. Baal. That's why you wake up in the morning, go to work at 6. At 5 o'clock, you clock in, and you wake up, you come back home, and you do your little things, and you go back, and he said, I read my little 5 scriptures, and I come back home, and then I go back, and I keep doing this over and over again. You just get the seed, and you be saying hallelujah, and don't even know anything in the Torah. He said, I'm so prosperous. Look at me. What a structured life. It's so wonderful. Not even knowing that you were deceived into believing that was how your life's supposed to be. That's what he's literally freed you from. People say, stand in the ways and see the liberty that he give you. Let's say, Chdsh. He said, I've come to declare freedom. He said, one want to go back to Mizraim so bad. You know, they pay better in Mizraim. You know, they got some nice cucumbers over there too. Get plenty of it. I ain't got to work. I ain't got to go into the field and I ain't got to plant nothing. I ain't got to sow no seed. I ain't got to sweat. They got nice, fresh air conditioning. Right? It's just like the Matrix. I come to free your mind. Right? Because that's the whole point. He said, I come to free your mind. Because why? Because you start to look at that and you say, oh, that's a great life I had. But in actuality, was it? We about to see though. Right, this is the word. The word said, "Word for the wise is gold, the master of the assemblies." Right, the word for assemblies is akupah. It means collection, a collection of learned men. Right, so are we a collection of learned men and women? Right, an assembly. That's the whole point. We're trying to collect people of learned men. Collect, and the only way you're gonna get collection of learned and people that's learned, they have to be willing to learn. Not only be willing to learn, but also be able to be collected to learn. Because a collection of people create collective thoughts. And those collective thoughts create collective ideas. And those collective ideas create essential words. And those essential words create peace. When you have a collective bunch of people that actually understand it. Right. This book of Ephesians chapter 5, 3 through 14. But sexual immorality and all impurity or covetousness must not even be named among you as proper among Chdshim. Why? Because sexual immorality is what? Worship of idols. It can be worship of idols. And it just got to be adultery and fornication physically. It can be worship of idolatry. Right? This is right here. Verse 4 says, let no filthiness or foolish talk, no crude joking, which are out of place. Why? Because it's talking about in a human type of way. You got to take this stuff seriously. Because if you do it in a human type of way, it's philosophy. You've been spoiled through philosophy. And it says, but instead, let there be thanksgiving, Aydah, praise. And it says, for you may be for sure of this, that everyone who is sexual, immoral, or impure, or is covetous, that is an idolater, has no inheritance in the Malkuth of Yahushua Mashiach and Yahuwah. Why? Because they ain't going to have no joy. He said they ain't going to have no peace. They ain't going to have nothing. He said they're not going to have no joy, no peace. They're not going to have any type of the fruits of the Ruach. Because that's a part of the Malkuth of Yahuwah has come to you. But he said, what got you bound today? Let no one deceive you with empty words. He said, that's what got you bound today. That's why he said the newest quote on Instagram, the newest news article. He said the newest thing that's getting ready to come out, all vanity among vanities. They got you. So he said all of my investments, they're not doing what they need to do anymore. So I'm just, oh man. Now your mind becoming empty because Satan just, every time you think about it, Satan just taking all the seeds out your mind, taking the seeds out your mind, taking the trees out your mind. The things that just budded, he take it out of your mind. He just steal all your stuff. Like Abraham trying to drive away the crows, as he spoke about before, and they come to take your seed out of your mind. And you know what it says? Empty words, because of these, the wrath of Yahuwah comes upon the sons and daughters of disobedience. It ain't just sons. They always try to say the sons and daughters of disobedience. And it says right here, therefore do not become partners with them. It says, for at one time you were in darkness. You were darkness, right? We were Kashak. He said we were darkened in our mind and we couldn't see in the dark. Because you remember, Erev is darkness, Kashak, right? Erev is spelled with an iron. We couldn't see in the dark before. He said, oh, you still can't see in the dark now. It's not as much watching. When the sun goes down and you wave your sheaf, and your kuka and you noof it, it's not as much watching. Iron. But it said right here, but now you are in the light of the world. Huh? But now you are the light, you are light in the world. Walk as the children of light. You gotta act like it. You gotta be it. Male and female, you gotta be it. He said, ain't no way in the world you should walk out. You the children of light, ain't no way you should walk out of the house looking crazy. Looking like you ain't the child of light. He said, ain't no way in the world you should do that. He said, you wouldn't show up to your job like that, would you? He said, they will fire you on the spot. He said, they will fire you on the spot. He said, you ain't looking your best. What's going on with you? He said, amazingly, people will go and they'll show their best face, best conversation, best words, best look. They will put so much time into it just so they can present their best to get a paycheck. But understand the wages of sin is death. You get a wage at the end of your life. And the wages of sin is death. But the gift of Yahuwah is eternal life. He said, oh, so you don't want to represent what I'm doing? You want to represent my company the proper way? He said, you don't want to represent my company. Oh, you're sitting, you know how they say, you're sitting in my meeting the way? You sitting in my meeting like that? So you're just going to sit there in my meeting like that? You know how people say? You're going to sit there like that? He said, I used to be in those meetings. He said, when I worked in accounting and finance, I did that. When I worked in a tech company, I was recruited for that. When I worked in the human resources department, he's a recruiter for what? Nursing and pulmonary and CV step down. I used to do that. But I never used to bring him to sit in a meeting like, I don't know what's going on. Never would I do that. He said, why? Because you want your paycheck. Right? That's all a part of it. And it says right here, it says, therefore, do not become partners with them. For at one time you were in darkness, but now you are the light of the world. Walk as the children of light. For the fruit of light is found in all good and right and true. It is. How you gonna get fruit? Pari. How you gonna get your numbers up? You know, your talk time. They used to go to your job and they be like, your talk time is down. You ain't talking to Yahuwah a lot more. You used to talk to Yahuwah like a lot more, but your talk time is down. Matter of fact, not only your talk time down, your conversion rate is down. Like you're not really talking to other people. You're not giving your life. You're not really being a servant. You know, you used to clean your desk, but you don't clean it no more. You used to do that. You used to have on the right clothes and the things. Now you come to work any type of way. And then when we go out in the public and try to represent the company and make those things, you're looking like you don't want to be doing it. And then they say, oh, Yahuwah, what do you mean by that? He said, for the wages of sin is death. And it says right here, verse 10, and try to discern what is pleasing to Yahuwah, right? Pleasing to yourself. Pleasing to other people. To please other people. To please you're trying to please the supreme ruler. The one who sits in the highest Shamayim. The one who gives life and understanding to the smallest ant and to the biggest whale. Right? And it says, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, because they ain't going to produce anything. Unfruitful works of darkness ain't going to produce anything. I'm like, man, what do you mean? They ain't going to produce nothing. They ain't got no song, no saying. He said they ain't got no wise words. They have nothing. Matter of fact, he said unfruitful works, right? They don't serve. They don't have no type of, he said, unction to move. These are all parts of unfruitful, like unfruitful things that they die. Just like any other plant outside. Like you look at all the plants, they flourish. He said the only reason they flourish is because you plant them. That's the only reason they flourish, because you planted it. And the only way it's going to grow, you got to keep cultivating it. He said, I want to love. I want love to be shown to me. He said, how much love you give? I want kindness to be shown to me. How much kindness you give? I want attention to be shown to me. How much attention do you give? And it says right here, and it says, unfruitful or dark, but instead expose them. Why do you expose them? Because you got to expose it. And what exposes it? The commandment is, Proverbs 6:23. The commandment is a lamp and the teaching is light. And correction is a reproof is a way of life. That's how you expose it. By light, by teaching it. For it is shameful to even speak of the things that are done in secret, you do in secret, but when anything is exposed by light, it becomes visible. You couldn't see it. You couldn't see in the dark. He said you couldn't see in your dark mind and your dark thoughts. So therefore your dark thoughts and your dark mind has blinded you from every single person and every single thing in your life. He said it's darkening you from your responsibility as an ish, as an isha, as a man, as a child, as a mother and father, as a husband and wife, as an example to the world. And it's right here, for anything that becomes visible is light. Therefore, it says, awake, O sleeper. He said, because you are in the ruach of sleep. And arise from the dead, because that's the only reason, because the wages of sin is death. That's the only reason you're in darkness, because you're in sin. And it says, arise from the dead, and Mashiach will shine on you. When the sun shines, when you go outside, when you walk outside, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. The sun shines within your mind when you actually get up and go see it. How's the sun going to shine on you when you sit in a dark room, in a dark place, in darkness, and you refuse to be exposed to light? That word for empty in that word in verse 6 is kinos. It means empty, vain things, right? They don't want to see you with empty, vain things. But that we talked about. That is vanity, philosophy, vain words that have no profit. Absolutely none. It's a vain is showing excessively high opinion of one's appearance, abilities, or worth, or producing no results, and useless, right? He said useless. He said, how do you know if you're producing results? He said, cast your seed upon the water. Cast your bread upon the water. He said, you don't know disaster gonna come. He said, you'll find it in due time. It'll come up. He said, it ain't come up yet. He said, don't, just wait, it will. It just ain't happened yet. And he said, how do you go? You gotta have a moon. Because Satan gonna try to get you to doubt, have errors and doubts on the way before it grows. He's gonna try to get you to quit. You ain't did nothing. Ha ha, look at your, ha ha ha, look at that, ha ha ha. That's what Satan does, because Satan don't know. Right? He's just waiting to see if it will come to pass. That's all he's waiting on. Right, so this is, it says right here, he said, let no sexual morality, that way, he says right here, sexual morality, that's porneia, harlotry, adultery, idolatry, fornication, incest, sleeping with family members, fornication, that's intercourse, sexual intercourse outside of marriage, idolatry in secret. Or you set an idol in your mind. He said, I got you bound. He said, I got an idol from when I was 10. I got an idol when I was 11, or when I was 11 and I seen pornography for the first time in my life. He said, you got an idol in your mind, or you got addicted to harlotry. He said, harlotry or what? He said, I want to expose myself all the time. He said, what? Harlotry. I can't stop. Adultery. Right? He said, speaking loud and stubborn to your husband and go out and speak smooth words to another man. To deceive him to think that one's okay. He said, that's adultery. He said, porneia, right? These are porneia, pornography. Right? It's all on the internet, on your cell phone. It's on your tablet. It's on the billboards. You can walk by the line, you can see it everywhere. He said, what? Sexual morality. Right? You look at his word, you look at the word for, you see that word emptiness? It says that word empty is kinos, right? Empty, vain things, right? But also the empty, vain things come from, in your empty mind and you're in darkness, you got this demon named Bubana. Yeah, Bubana. It means a demon, it's a hierarchy of Asterisk or Asmodeus. These are idols. Asmodeus is a vicious demon, right? Very vicious. He causes adultery and fornication. Matter of fact, he can slay men in the book of Tobit. And he said, who slayed the men? Asmodeus killed them. He'd be like, are you sure? Or was Asmodeus in the woman? He said, it says right here, a demon hierarchy, Asterisk and Asmodeus. It says meaning emptiness. That's what it means. Bubana means emptiness. He worked underneath Asmodeus. They are part of their crew. You know, you have a hierarchy of demons, and he the ruler, the prince, and then you got Bubana. He come with your empty mind and deceive you with emptiness in your mind. You know, it's an empty Bubana. And you say, what is empty? He said philosophy, vain deceit, vanity, empty words. He gonna deceive you, and he gonna have your mind. He said, Bubana got you. He said, Bubana? He said, yeah, Bubana. Right? The book of Hebrews, chapter 5 through 10. So also Mashiach did not exalt himself to be made a high Kahan, a Gadol Kahan, but was appointed to him who said to him, you are my son, today I have begotten you. He said, I begot you today. But he said right here, as it says also another place, you are a priest forever after the order of Malach Sadiq. Why? Because Malach Sadiq made sure Abraham didn't forget his bread and wine. Even though he went to go battle, he made sure he opened his hand and said he came out to meet him and make sure he ate his bread and wine. Make sure he did what he's supposed to. That's what Yahushua did to the disciples when he rose on the third day. He was talking with them all day, and then he made sure he gave him some bread. And he broke bread with him. He made sure. And he ain't like us. He said he ain't like the children of Yasharah. They want to see people fail. They want to see people fall. They want to see people not make it. But he said, see to it that no one fails to receive the Khan of Yahuwah. He said, nobody. He said, both male and female, right? And it says, verse 7 says, in the days of his flesh, Yahushua offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries. Keep that in mind. He offered up prayers with loud cries. And then what he said? And tears. Why? Because his bread, his ashes was his bread, and his tears was his drink. And it says to him who was able to save him from death. He said, who you praying to? Because the wages of sin is death. He said, who you praying to? They said, I'm praying to some other God. He said, and he was heard because of his reverence. That's the only reason. He said, because of his reverence. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. He said, so that's the only way you're going to learn it. He said, how am I going to learn obedience? He said, how did I learn obedience? I learned obedience through the things I suffered, from the things that were gone, from the people that left, from the money that was taken, from the things that I lost, from millions gone. That's how I learned obedience. I learned obedience through things, he said, transpiring, he said, in your life. Through injury in your legs, and your arms, and your shoulders, dislocation, surgeries. I learned obedience through that. I learned obedience through the things that being on your knees and praying when you're at your last breath, when you're at your last dollar. That's how you learn obedience. That's how you learn Amunah. How are you going to learn it if you don't go through these things? He said, I ain't going to learn it. You got to learn it that way. I learned it through that. That's how I learned it. He said, I learned it through slander and gossip and lying. I learned it through blackmail. I learned it through that. That's how I learned obedience. He said, that's how you learn how to deal and move in this world. You're going to learn it through the things you suffer. It's the only way you're going to learn it. It says, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. Why? Because he literally did it all. He was tempted. He was in the flesh just like we were. And he was tempted in all areas and yet without sin. So you think about that. How many times in your life you've been tempted in all areas and you ain't been without sin? And then people say, who you praying to? And it says, verse 9 says, and being made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation to those who obey him, being designated by Yahuwah Elohim, high priest after the order of Malach Sadiq. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through the things he suffered. Right, the word for suffered is pasco. It means to experience a sensation. He experienced a sensation. He experienced what we feel. All the sensations, all the desires, even desire for a woman. He experienced it. He experienced all your sensations. He's seen things rise up in himself. He's seen things rise up between his legs. He's seen all that stuff that we be thinking that he ain't never experienced. He experienced all of it. Things cross his eyes, things cross his mind, things trying to take over his mind, lust. He dealt with all that. He dealt with all of the mental parts of ourselves that we can't seem to understand. He said he dealt with all that. And you know what it says? An impression, usually painful, feel, or passion, and suffer, vex. He felt all of this. So anything that one feels like they never actually overcame and feel like they haven't achieved, Yahushua did it. He did it all. He did it all. Right, this is the book of Hadassah chapter 2. Hadassah chapter 2, or Esther chapter 2, verse 1. And after these things, when the anger of King Ahasuerus had abated, right, because Vashti didn't show up when he had told her to come. So King Ahasuerus like upset. And his anger left. He remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's young men who attended him said, let beautiful young Bathula be sought out for the king, and let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of the kingdom to gather all the beautiful young Bathula, women, virgins, to the harem in Susa, in the citadel, under the custody of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women. Yeah, you put a eunuch in charge of women, a man in charge of women. Let's see. That's very significant. Let their cosmetics, it says cosmetics in the ESV, be given to them. And let the young woman who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This pleased the king, and he did so. So he did all that, right? So that word for young is Na'ara. Na'ara. He said, let the young Na'ara, damsel, little girl, concubine, young woman, marriageable young woman. It says marriageable young woman, female servant, attendant, young woman, maidens, young ladies. Each young lady, a girl, a damsel, right? Na'ara. Na'ara. So you look at Na'ara and then you see what? He said, let the young Na'ara Bathula. It means a virgin. Bathula. It means virgin. A bride. Separate. A virgin. So that's what he's going to have to do. A virgin. To stay a virgin, you got to separate. Right? That's the only way. That's why he said, bring them into the palace and let them be what? Guarded. He said they got to be guarded. He said, why they got to be guarded? Right? By a eunuch. That word for eunuch is saris. In that verse, saris. It means official. It says official, a eunuch. It means to castrate. Right? It also means a valet. You ever had a valet driver? You know, you had a driver that drives you around and treats you like a good woman, and they put you in the back, and then they drive you around, and they valet you around. They say, where you want to go? You want to go to the store? You want to go to the restaurant? You want to get some waffles? Right? You want to go over here? He's like a valet driver. He said, what does the valet driver do? The valet driver drives you where you want to go. You ever had a driver before? People say, a driver? Yeah, a driver. It says, a minister, state eunuch officer, a chamberlain. Right? He said, put them over, right? So this right here says castrate means remove testicles of a male animal, right? Why would we say that? Because Yahushua told us, he said there are eunuchs. There are eunuchs for men. Eunuchs of men. I mean, and he ain't saying he cut it all off, but maybe these people did. But at the same time, he said he cut that desire off. Right? That's a desire that man had. He cut that off. And it said right here, eunuch is an ineffectual person, a man who has been castrated or cuts off a desire, especially in the past, one employed to guard the woman's living areas. Huh? Because in order for a man to be around women's living areas and be around them, he has to have his desires under control. His desire or lust that he has in his heart and mind, this is the only way you can be a guarder of virgins. You yourself have to be mentally, you have to literally destroy all desire and want. Right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 19, 10 through 12. The disciples said to him, if such is the case of a man where with his wife, it is better not to marry. Why? He's talking about putting away wives, and you ain't going to be able to put them away after you make that bereavement. He said, nope, I don't care how many wives you got. You can have 5, 10, 3, 1. Right? You get 1, you get 5, he's like, you ain't putting them away though. He said, no, you're not, unless it's like sexual morality. Unless it's like what Yahuwah did to Yashar and Yehuda, because they wouldn't want to stay in, because they wanted to continue to do it. He's like, okay, you don't want to stay in the house? Okay. But other than that, but it said right here, it says, but he said to them, not everyone can receive this saying, but only those to whom it is given. For there are eunuchs who have been so from birth. I mean, in their mind, they're like, I'm cutting off that desire for a nisha, for a virgin woman. I'm gonna cut it all off, the desire of it in my mind. And get what it says. There are some eunuchs that were from birth, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by men, like the man we just read. But it's showing you that you have to cut off desire off to be a guarder of women who are Bathula, are virgins. You have to be. He said, in order to be a guardian, of virgin women. And it's right here, and there are eunuchs who have been made themselves eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of Shamayim. He said they only did it for the kingdom of Shamayim. They made themselves that way. They say, no, I'm not going to participate in that. He said, why would you do that? He said, look at the world today. And it says, let the one who is able to receive it, is able to receive this. Let the one who is able to receive this receive it. Why? In their right hand. With their yod. That's what the yod means. The 10th letter of the alphabet. It means right hand. Let them receive this. And he said, all the virgins, they say you right-handed fellowship. He said, because you could be right among them, and you ain't gonna do none of this stuff that most men desire. But all this is a part of it. Right, so this book, Hadassah, that word for cosmetics, like we read, it said, let their cosmetics be given. That word is tamruk. It means a scraping, rubbing. Why? Because all the things that they were doing was preparing to meet the king. Because he was looking for a replacement for Vashti. It means remedy, a scourge, a soap. He said soap. Yeah, you got to clean yourself out. Permute, bath. It means to cleanse. Remedy for an injury, like any type of ill-favoredness, any type of things on your body. All these are part of her purification process, right? Shaul said, I want to present you as a pure virgin to Yahushua Mashiach, right? So we look at all this scraping and rubbing, right? Purifying, purification. See, then he will purify your souls in obedience to the truth. Why? Because in the book of Yakaziel, Ezekiel, he said you're supposed to have just ephah, just balances, mazon, and what? Just bath. All that's a part of it. If he say, no, I don't want to do that anymore because I haven't produced in my mind. He said, no, I found another teacher. This person's going to give me everything I need. And he say, no. Yahushua said, I already given you everything you need. And he says, what do you mean? Right, this is the book of Hadassah, chapter 2, 5 through 10. Now there was a Yehudi in Susa, the citadel, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, the son of Shemi, the son of Kish, the Benjamin, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives. Carried away in Jeconiah, the king of Yehuda, whom the Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away. He was bringing up Hadassah, that is Esther, the daughter of his uncle, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman had a beautiful figure and was lovely to look at. And when her father and her mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So the king's order and his edict were proclaimed, and when many young women were gathered in Susa, the citadel, to custody of Haggai, Esther was also taken to the king's palace and put into custody of Haggai, who had been charged of the women. And the young woman pleased him and won his favor, and he quickly provided her with her cosmetics and her portion of food. Why? Because it's just like Daniel in the palace. They're going to give you your food. They're going to take care of your food. They're going to take care of your clothing. They're going to take care of all your soaps and your cleaning, your oils and everything you have. And you know the sad part is, he said, when you bring a woman into a bayis today, he said they want to take care of themselves. They want to do everything themselves. He said they want to do these things themselves. But when you come in, as I said, when you be brought into something like a king's palace, and they want to, remember, a servant wants to do everything for you. If you are not the type of person who receives that, then it becomes, he's like, so what, you don't want to please the king? He said, who's your king? If you be the king of Yasharal, let him come down from the cross. If you be the king of Yehuda, let him come down from the cross. I thought Yahushua was your king. I thought he was the master. I thought Yahuwah was the master, right? But it says right here, so the king, and it says right here, and he gave, let's see right here, verse 8 says, so when the king's order, let's see, go down right, yeah. It says, and he quickly provided her with her cosmetics and her portion of food. He said quickly. It wasn't slow. And with 7 chosen young women, right? So he can put her, he put her, right? So the king ordered and proclaimed that the young woman be gathered at the citadel, and he put her with 7 other chosen women. So that's 8. That's 8. From the king's palace, and advanced her and her young women to the best places in Haram. So he said, how are you supposed to get advanced? People saying, like you get into a place of a palace and then you want to be advanced higher. Like I want to get more. I want to be higher. I want to go higher. Then how are you going to get advanced if you don't take what's provided for you, the food that's given to you, the care that's been given to you, the valet that's been given to you, all the things that's been given to you? Then you have to receive it, and then when you're chosen to go higher in the king's palace, you got to do it. That's the only way you're going to go. How? Because who are you representing? People say, oh. He said, when a woman, a Ishar comes into a household, who is she representing? Herself? He said, this won't happen to her then. He said, this won't happen to the house either. He says the king's palace, right? Because that's what Bayith means. And it says, and advanced her and her young women to the best places in Haram. And Esther had not made known her people or kindred or Mordecai, for Mordecai commanded her not to make it known. And every day Mordecai walked in front of the court of Haram to learn how Esther was and what was happening to her, right? So that word for Esther, it means a star. That's what her name means. A star. That's what it means. Why? Because they worship the Kukabim in the yard. They worship the Kukab. That's why they call her a star. When he told Abraham, he said, I'm going to multiply your seed as the stars of Shamaim. And he said, oh, not in the seeds of many, but of one. For all that immerse into Yahushua have put him on. He said, I don't want to be that high. But you going to take him off? He said, you can't get out of this relationship. Once he chose those women, you chosen. You can't get out of this. What you going to do? Say, I don't want to be chosen anymore? And it means what? A star. That's what it means. Right, that word for Hadassah means myrtle. It means myrtle. You know, like a tree. You know, like a tree planted by rivers of living water. You know, like a myrtle tree. Her name, Hadassah, means myrtle. And she was a Bathula. She was a Na'ara Bathula, and she was Hadassah, the myrtle tree. And they call her the star of the whole story. You know how you have the stars, the main character? She's the main character. He said, I don't want to be a main character. I want to be an extra. You know how they say an extra? He said, ain't no fun in that. If you ever been on a set of a movie set, he said, I did that before. He said, you be an extra. He said, it ain't really that fun until you become, I'm going to move up. So I'm going to be the star. I'm going to be the star now. I'm the main character now. He said, that means my pay go up. Exactly. Your pay go up. So you only get paid based upon how far you're willing to go. How high you willing to go. Because the higher you go, the more it takes to sustain you. He said, I just want to be down here. You know, those who desire sincere milk of the word, I don't desire to do all that other stuff. I'll just stay down here and be mediocre. No. Right, it's a myrtle tree. That's what myrtle is. It says she's a myrtle tree. She's like a myrtle. I wonder what color they had on. Look. She said her name means myrtle, Hadassah. That's what her name means. her name means Hadassah, right? He said what? And word for virgin is Bethula again, right? Just went there again. But it also means to separate, right? So you look at all this, you look at those trees, they were all planted by themselves. You can't put a Bethula next to all the trees. The Bethula got to show out. The Bethula got to be right there in the middle of the garden. It's the big giant pink tree, pink flowers. It's like right there. You can see it. That's the star. That's the main character. Right. But here you go. This is Joseph and Asenath Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 2, Chapter 1. And there was a man in that city, a satrap of Pharaoh, and this man was a chief, all the satraps and the noblemen of Pharaoh, and this man was exceedingly rich and prudent and gentle. Huh? He was prudent and what? And gentle. Because you got to be gentle to do what he does, right? And it says, and he was a counselor of Pharaoh, right? But he was understanding beyond all noblemen of Pharaoh. And the name of that man was Petres, priest of Heliopis, right? That's the only way you're going to do it. The gentle. That's one of the fruits of the Ruach, right? Let's see what happens. And he had a daughter, a virgin of 18 years, a Bethula. He had a Bethula. Gentle, and he had a Bethula. And she was very tall and beautiful. It says handsome and beautiful to look at beyond all virgins on earth. Huh? So you think about the type of virgin Yahuwah wants to be presented to him, Yahusha. So you think about that. Think about that. What type of virgin he want? I'm talking about all the virgins on earth. Now this is a Mizraim woman. And he said, "Oh no, I don't have a standard to live up to. I just be mediocre." No. It says, and this girl had nothing similar to the virgins of Mizraim, but she was in every respect similar to the daughters of the Hebrews. Oh, so she was a part of the Abyd women. She looked like the Abyd women, but of all the virgins of the earth. So he said, how you've been immersed into Yahushua and made a Bethula again, a virgin. So now you have to live up to that standard. He said, I didn't maintain my virgin in the flesh. Well, in the Ruach, you better maintain your virginity. Why? Because if you don't have it in the flesh, and you need to make sure you take control of your body, because you need to get that soap and all that things that you see what they were doing to clean themselves up. You need to do the same thing with the bar. And it said you got to be above all of them. And she was tall and she says she was similar to the daughters of the Abyd, and she was tall as Sarah, and handsome as Rebecca, and beautiful as Rebecca, and beautiful as Rachel. And the name of that virgin was Asenath, and the fame of her beauty spread all over that land, and at the end to the ends of the inhabited world. So how do you think Yahushua's name gonna get all the way to the end of the world? They say this truth's gonna be declared through the ends of the earth, and the end gonna come. It's gonna get declared to the world, the end gonna come. He said when you're looking like trash on the street. How this gonna happen? He said, no. You got to be this Bethula in the world. And this is right here. Going to chapter 1, going to chapter 2. And Asenath was despising and scorning every man. And she was boastful and arrogant, right? So you can still, remember, she was similar to, she wasn't all the way there yet. He said, so are you like Mizraim Asenath? Because she a Bethula, but she ain't all the way there yet. He said, you ain't circumcised your heart all the way through. And she was boastful and arrogant with everyone, and no man had ever seen her, because Petres had a tower adjoining to his house, very big and high, and on top of the tower was an upper room, including 10 chambers. And the first chamber was big and splendid, paved in purple stones, and its walls were faced with colors and precious stones, and the ceiling of the chambers was the gold. And within the chamber, gods of Mizraim, and without the number, were fixed to the walls, even the gods of gold and silver. And Asenath worshipped them all, and feared them, and performed sacrifices to them every day. So she was a Bethula, but she worshipped other gods. So are you a Bethula, been immersed in Yahushua, and you have other gods in your mind? And are you arrogant and boastful with everyone? And this is right here. And the second chamber contained Asenath's ornaments and chests, and there was much gold in the chamber, and silver and clothes, and interwoven with gold and chosen, and costly stones, and distinguished clothes, and ornaments, and virginity in the third chamber, in Asenath's storeroom. And then it was good things. And 7 virgins occupied the remaining chambers, each having one chamber. Isn't that what Esther had in the palace? She had her and 7 virgins with her. They were 7 virgins, Bethula. Look, the pattern still continues. The pattern still continues. And it says, and they were waiting on Asenath, and they were all in the same age, born in one night with Asenath, and she loved them very much. Why? That's how you stay a virgin. You stay around virgins. That's the only way you stay. You stay a Bethula by staying around Bethula. So people that don't worship other gods, you've been immersed into Yahushua, you've been cleansed and purified. You don't want to be around people who ain't no Bethula. Or get a mindset of a Bethula. He said, but nah, he said, I want to be around other people who ain't Bethula, who ain't a virgin. And he said right here, and it says, and there were very beautiful, and get what it says. And they were all the same age, born in one night, and she loved them very much. And they were very beautiful, like the stars of Shamaim. Isn't what we just read it? That's what Esther's name means. A star. He's Abraham, I'm going to multiply your seed as a kukag of Shamaim. So how are these Bethula going to be multiplied to kukag of Shamaim when you got idols and you're boastful and arrogant, and you're looking like absolutely nothing in front of people, and your fame has not went all the way out? How you gonna be like the stars, the main character? And no man ever conversed with them, not even a male child. He said, not one male child, not even a male. You know why? Because they guarded by somebody who guards over Bethula, virgins. And they have a valet. Now he their driver, and he protects them, and he makes sure nobody touches them. And get what it says? Being fostered, right? You know what it says? And there were 3 windows to Asenath's big chamber where her virgins was being fostered. Right, so this is chapter 3, going to chapter 3. And it happened in the first year of 7 years of plenty, in the 4th month, in the 8th year on the month, Yusuf came into the territory of Heliopis and was gathering the surplus gain of the region. And when he had come close to the city, Yusuf sent 12 men. He sent 12 men. How many disciples Yusuf had? 12. And it's 13. And get what he said? Ahead of him to betray the priest, saying he was sending them ahead of him. How many tribes are there? So what do you think he's doing? And get what he's saying? I will lodge with you because it is the hour of noon and the time of lunch. You know how we say noon time. And the heat of the sun is great. And I desire that that I may refresh myself under the shadow of your house. And Betrayus heard this. He rejoiced exceedingly with great joy, said, Barak be Yahuwah Elohim, Yusuf, because my master Yusuf thought me worthy to come to us. He said, that's how you have to be. You have to be the same way. He said, Yahushua has now, he's started to come in here. He said, well, 2 or 3 got in my name there, and he said, I'm coming in here. And Betrayus called the steward of his house and said to him, hurry and make the house ready. Huh? The steward. What do you mean the steward? These are the servants. The steward of the house, the servants. He said, make the house ready. Get his house ready. What? You the steward of his houses. And he said, it said to him, hurry and make the house ready and prepare a great dinner. You know what we just did for Pesach? He said, what do you want us to prepare the Pesach? Where where do you want us to prepare Pesach? He said, you're going to see a man. You're going to see him doing something, carrying some water. He said, tell him the son, he needs the room today. And he said, there you're going to prepare Pesach for me. In the upper room. Just like Asna was in the upper chamber. And get what he said. Because Yusuf, the powerful one of Elohim, is coming to us today. He said the powerful one. It means he got his powers to discern between good and evil. Just like we talk about Hebrews chapter 5. Abyd. Because you want to be milk. You say, I don't want to go that high. I want to be the main character. So I'm just going to be mediocre. And I'm not going to try to have my power to discern between Taub and Ra anymore. Because I'm a Bethula and I've already arrived. You know how to say. I don't have to prepare to meet the king, the Malak. I don't have to do that anymore, right? Right? It says, and Asna heard that her father and mother had come from the field. And it says, which was their inheritance, and rejoiced and said, I will go and see my father and my mother, because they have come from the field, which is the hour of inheritance. And for it was the time of harvest. And Asna hurried into the chamber where her robes lay, and dressed in white linen, robe interwoven, violet and gold, and girded herself with golden girdle, and put on bracelets in her hands and feet, and golden buskins about her feet around her. But she was arrogant, proud, and she was worshiping idols. So. But she had on linen, though. Pure white. You know how people say, I got my white linen and everything, looking like the most beautiful thing on earth, and she was. But it was something wrong with her heart. It was something wrong with her heart. Neck, because it says, around her neck, and she put on valuable ornaments and costly stones, and hung around all her sides and the names of gods of Mizraim, which were engraved everywhere on the bracelets and the stones and the faces and the idols, and carved on them. He said, do you have anything of those things in your possession? He said, do you have any of these things in your possession? And it says, and she put a tiara on her head, and fastened a diadem around her temples, and covered her head with a veil. Right? She did all that. Chapter 4. And she hurried and went down into the stairs, and put on from the upper room, and came to her father and mother, and greeted them with a kiss. Then Betrayus and his father rejoiced over her daughter Asenath with great joy, because he was a gentle man, because she saw her adorned like a bride of Elohim. Right? She was adorned just like the bride of Elohim, a perfect virgin, without spot or wrinkle. Right? And that's what you're supposed to be, the main character. Above all the virgins on the earth. Bethulah. And they brought out all the good things which they had brought from the field, which was in the inheritance, and gave them to their daughter. And Asenath rejoiced over all the good things, and the grapes and the dates and the joes and the pomegranates and the figs. She had plenty of food. She was like, that's the vegan diet. That's the plant-based diet. That's what was in Bereshit. But it said right here, it says right here, and dates and the doves, right? Who knows what that is? But yeah, but it says in the pomegranates and the figs, right? Because they were all handsome and good to taste. Doves, right? Those are doves, right? Who knows? And Betrayus said to the daughter Asenath, my child. And she said, behold, I am here, my master. She called her father. Who are you talking to? Did she say that to him? So she got that right. She said, my master. Because that's her father. Her guardian. And he said to her, sit down between us, and I will tell you what I have to say. And Asenath sat between her father and her mother. And Betrayus, her father, with his right hand, grasped the right hand of his daughter. Right? That's her. They took both their yards. It's called the right hand of fellowship. That's what he did. He gave him the right hand of fellowship. And what did he say? And his daughter, and get what he said, and kissed it. He kissed her hand and said to her, my child, Asenath. And if you say, what is greet one another with a Qhdsh kiss? What is that? And he said to her, my child, Asenath. And she said, behold, here I am, master. Let my master and my father speak up. And Betrayus, her father, said to her, Yusuf, the powerful one of Elohim, is coming to us today, and he is chief of the whole land of Mizraim. And the king Pharaoh appointed him king over all whole land. And he is what? He is giving grain to the whole land and saving it from the oncoming famine. And Yusuf, a man who worships Yahuwah and self-controlled. And a virgin like you today. He is what? Self-controlled. A virgin like you today. Self-controlled. And get what it says. And Yusuf is also a man powerful in wisdom and experience. Right, so the book of Galatians chapter 5 verse 22. But the fruit of the Ruach is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness. That's what her father was. That's why he sent out her right hand of fellowship and gave it to her and kissed her hand. Gentleness and self-control. That was Yusuf. And he was a Batul. He was a virgin. He was a virgin, man. He was a virgin and he was self-controlled. Because he had the Ruach. He said, how do you know? And he said, he said, Joseph Asenath, Old Testament, volume 2. He continued on. And he says, and the Ruach of Yahuwah is upon him. Why would he not have the fruits of the Ruach? And the Khan of Yahuwah is with him. Come, my child, and I will hand you over to him for his wife, and you will be a bride to him. He's like, what? And he will be your bridegroom forever and forever. And when Asenath heard these words from her father, plenty of red sweat poured over her face, and she became furious with great anger. He said, do you have great anger, you a Bethula, and you arrogant, and you proud? He said, you ain't trying to be the best Bethula, because he compared her to an Abyd woman. Above all the virgins, she tall like Sarah. She was beautiful like Recall and Recall. And guess what? She was better than all the virgins in all of Mizraim and all the world. He said, are you that? Are you trying to be? He said, you're lowering your standards because you don't think that the Abyd, the Elohim of Abyd with the ayin in the front, you don't think that he's greater than all Elohim and all gods. So you don't think you're greater. You don't believe that you're actually supposed to be above that. He said, it hasn't really hit your mind yet. He said, and your life is going over it. Your life is getting to an end. Just like it said, remember the Creator in the days of your youth, and your life is coming to an end. And she said, great anger, and looked, what? At her father with her eyes and said, why does my master and my father speak words of such as these and to hand me over like a captive to a man who is a stranger and a fugitive and was sold at 10 and 13? And he said, is he not the shepherd's son from the land of Canaan? And he himself was caught in the act when he was sleeping with his mistress. And his master threw him into the prison of darkness. And Pharaoh brought him out of prison because he interpreted his dream just like the older woman of Mizraim interpreted dreams. He's like, he ain't nothing. Isn't that what people do today? Start calling out all the stuff they heard from other people about you and using it against you to say that's the reason why I ain't gonna be doing nothing. He say, I ain't gonna be calling him my master. He said, do you do that? He said, no, I will. He said, no, but I will be married to the king's firstborn son because he is king of the whole land of Mizraim. Hearing this, Petreius was ashamed to speak further to his daughter Asenath about Yusuf, because she answered him daringly and with a boastful and with anger. Galatians 5:19. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual morality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry. Does she have that? She worshiped idols. Here's Yusuf with the Ruach, but she got idols and she got a mouth on her. Woo. And she talked to her father any type of way. When she gave him a Qahalath man with the Ruach, and she running her mouth. Idolatry, sorcery. She practiced that too. Enmity, strife. She just did that with her father. And then you say fits of anger. That's what she just did. She walking by the flesh. So you got flesh and Ruach right there. You got the person walking by the Ruach, And then you got the person walking by the flesh, the woman walking by the flesh. And what do you think gonna happen after that? If she would have married him in this state, he would have been the worst thing he ever had. It would be total destruction on his life. Right, this is chapter 5. And the young man of Petrea's servant rushed in to say, behold, Yusuf is standing before the doors of our court. And Asenath fled from her father and mother's presence. And when she heard them speak these words about Yusuf, and went up into the chamber floor and entered her chamber and stood by the large window, the one looking to the east, in order to see Yusuf entering her father's house, and betraying his wife and his whole family went out to meet Yusuf, and the gate of the court looking east were opened, and Yusuf entered standing on Pharaoh's second chariot, and 4 horses white as snow, and the golden bridles were harnessed to it. And the entire chariot was 6 manufactured of pure gold, and Yusuf was dressed in an exquisite white tunic, and the robe which he had thrown around him was purple, made of linen woven with gold, and a golden crown was on his head, and around the crown were 12 chosen stones, 12 of them, the 12 tribes, 12 golden stones. And guess what? And the top of the 12 stones were 12 golden rays, like the rays of the sun. And guess what? And a royal staff was in his left hand, and a royal in his right hand. And he outstretched an olive branch. What do you mean? He had a staff in his cuff and his yard, his right hand, his 10-11. You know, like the Kyle woman, she worked with her hands, her yard, and her cuff. He said, who can find a woman like that? Who can find a man like this? He outstretched an olive branch. What do you mean olive branch? Ain't we supposed to have an olive tree? Wasn't the olive tree to keep the lamps continually burning? He said the near, your manure, your 7 near burning. It's to keep your 7 near burning. He had an olive branch. He said, what do you mean that branch is flourishing? And guess what happened? And there were plenty of fruit on it. Oh, because the fruits of the Ruach. Because of the fruits of the Ruach. In the left hand and the right hand. In his coffin, his yard. The fruits of the Ruach was there in his right hand. And guess what it says? Fruits on it. And in the fruit was a great wealth of oil. He had 10 virgins. Wasn't he a virgin? 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. You see, Asenath was the foolish virgin. 5 kept their lamps continually burning. He had a wealth of oil too. And you know what the 5 virgins said in Matthew chapter 25? He said, give us some of your oil. He said, no, not so. Lest there won't be none for us. He said, go to them who sell. He said, are you walking by the flesh or are you walking by the Ruach? Because there's 10 virgins. 5 were wise and 5 were foolish. And Yusuf entered the court, and the gates of the court were closed, and every man and woman, if strange, remained outside the court, beside the guards of the gates. It says, drew tight and closed the doors, and the strangers were closed out. And Petreus and his wife and his whole family, except their daughter Asenath, went and prostrated themselves. They all ran out the house. They knew who the king was. They knew who Yusuf was in the kingdom. What do you think people gonna have to do? He said every knee gonna bow when Yahushua come, and every tongue gonna confess. Are you gonna be the one like Asenath with proud walking by the flesh, still sitting in the house, ain't willing to bow to a man? Are you gonna be that woman still in the house? Are you that woman that's not gonna have her lamp burning? Because they going out to meet the bridegroom. Are you gonna be the one that ain't got their oil burning, their lamp burning, they're near? He said, I ain't doing that. I ain't gonna be at no man's feet. I ain't washing nobody's feet. Okay. And it says, and went and prostrated themselves face down to the ground before Yusuf, and Yusuf descended from his chariot to greet them with his what? With his right hand. He greeted them with his olive branch that's bearing much fruit and has much oil. He greeting them. So how are you supposed to get your? He said, I want my oil, my lamp continually burning. Well, guess what? In order for you to get his right hand open to you to give you some oil, you're gonna have to bow to the ground, and you're gonna have to be at his feet. Regard. You're gonna have to wash his feet with your tears. The same thing that woman did. He said, your sins are forgiven. So you think asking our sins forgiven right here? Just like Yahushua was when he was sitting in the chair next to Qahalath. You know, the Qahalath who was not even doing anything. He was just unfruitful vine, or unfruitful tree. He had no fruits. He was an unfruitful tree. He was just like Asenath. He said, are you that person? Just despising everything he says. And then what he says, Psalms 144, 7-8. Stretch out your hand from on high and rescue me and deliver me. This is Psalms 144, 7-8. And deliver me from many waters, from the hand of foreigners, whose mouths speak lies, and whose right hand is the right hand of falsehood. Is these people right hand, the right hand of falsehood? They bound to the ground. And he stretched out his hand. Being that they did that, he gave him his right hand. You think he stretched out a right hand to a bunch of people that's falsehood? But you see her father stretched out his right hand to Asenath, and she burned hot with anger against him, which you showed she was the right hand of falsehood. Because she was walking by the flesh. But you see him stretching out his right hand, and you don't see the right hand of falsehood going against them. He getting ready to give them some oil. Galatians 2:9. And when James and Cephas and Euchanan, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the con that was given to me, they gave the right hand of fellowship. That's why they did it. They gave the right hand. Why do you think he gave it to them? You say a Shah won the right hand of fellowship. A man won the right hand of fellowship. He gave it to him, to Barnabas and me, that we should go to the Goyim, and that they to the circumcised. Right. Chapter 6. And Asenath saw Yusuf on his chariot and was strongly cut to the heart. And that's what happened. He said, you turn your stubborn shoulder and you cut to the heart. That's what happened. He said, you turn your stubborn shoulder and you cut to the heart. You know why it's cut to the heart? Because it's supposed to cut you to the heart. And her soul was crushed. He said, it crushed your heart. He said, it crushed you. Isn't that what Yahushua said? He was wounded for our transgression. He was crushed for our iniquity. Why do you think he got to do it to you? Because he's trying to crush your heart. That little stony heart people got, he's trying to crush it. She was crushed. And get what it says. And her knees were paralyzed. Man, she got weak in her knees. And her entire body trembled, of course, because Yahushua done came back. Or, Yusuf done came. That's what's going to happen when Yahushua arrives. He said, you're going to be trembling, and you're going to hit the ground. And she was filled with great fear, and that's what's going to happen to you. And guess what it says? And she sighed and said in her heart, what she said in her inner man, what shall I do? What shall I now do? Wretched that I am, did I not speak, saying that Yusuf is coming, the shepherd's son from the land of Canaan? And now behold, the son from Shamayim, right? And now behold, the son from Shamayim has come to us on his chariot and entered our house today and shines in it like a light upon the earth. He had 12 stones on his crown, on his head. He had an olive branch in his right hand. It bare much fruit and oil too. And he gave you the hand of fellowship. And you know what they said? That don't mean nothing. Who cares about him? But I, foolish and daring, have despised him and spoken wicked words about him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man acquainted with grief. He said, you despised him. He said, even after, right? Even after her father explaining to her who he was. Even after your father, Yahuwah, explaining to you who he is, and you burst out in anger and bitterness and resentment, and he's still despising in your heart. And you burst out with anger. And get what he said? What a wretched, foolish girl I am. He said, when are you going to say that? You know what Shiloh said? He said, when are you going to say that to yourself? Because I have spoken wicked words about him to my father. He said, in times past, before all this, Yahuwah said nobody spoke anything against me. And get what it said? Because you don't honor the son, you don't honor the father. You honor the father, you don't honor the son. So she dishonored her father. What makes you think she's going to honor him coming to the house? That's why she stayed out there. That's why she ain't bowed to the ground. because she dishonored her father. And get what happens? It says, and do not see me, because I have spoken wicked things about him. And where shall I flee and hide? Where you going to hide when you should come back here? Please tell me. I like to see it. You going to hide in the depths of the sea? He said he does. You going to go in the highest Shema? He does. If you go to the uttermost parts of Sheol, he does. Where you going to hide? How far are you going to go? You can hug God on it all you want. You can think on it all you want, all day, all night. Where are you going to hide from him? Because every hiding place he sees and nothing is hidden and escapes him. You are they who fear the eyes of men, not even knowing it. The eyes of Yahuwah, the iron, the seven near, the seven stone, the eyes on the on that stone is brighter than 10,000 times brighter than the sun, even brighter than Yusuf himself. Discerning the most secret parts. Just like the second Enoch says, he can see all your thoughts. He can see straight into your heart. Because of the great light that is inside of him. You know, that the great light, that's the sun that's shining. No, the ore that's in his heart. And now being gracious on me, Master, now be gracious on me, Master Elohim of Yusuf. So who's she talking to? She's talking to the Elohim he serves, because she see him. Right? Because I have spoken wicked words against him in ignorance. Now, how many words you said in not in ignorance? And he said, why did it say, awake, O that sleeper, and arise from the dead, and Yahushua will shine on your heart? He will shine on you. Because this is the information that's going to shine on you. He said, and then he says right here, and now let my father give me Yusuf for a maid servant slave. Now she want to serve him. And I will serve him forever and ever. He said, do you want to serve Yahushua forever and ever? Or do you want to serve your flesh? He said, do you want to serve your flesh? Right, this is chapter 7. Chapter 7. And Yusuf entered the house of Betrayers and sat upon the throne. So he sat on the throne in the house. And they washed his feet. And they washed his feet and set the table before him. Isn't that what we just did? We just did that during Pesach. And amazingly, this ain't even Pesach. But he doing it right here. And he said, if you understand this, he said, do it. That's what he told the disciples. And that's what the women did. He said, I don't want to continue after I wave my sheaf, after sun goes down. I want to continue in my own stubborn, hard-hearted ways. He said, because you got idols. And then it says, because Yusuf never ate with the Egyptians, for this was an abomination to him. And looking upon his eyes, and looking up with his eyes, Yusuf saw Asenath. So he saw you. He said, where you going to hide with them 7 eyes, with them near open? How you say it? When the eyes are open, the 7 near. Leaning through the window. And Yusuf said to Betrayers and his whole family, saying, who is the woman who is standing in the upper floor by the window? Let her leave this house. Because Yusuf was afraid, saying, this one must not molest me too, for all the wives and the daughters of the noblemen and the satraps of the whole land of Mizraim used to molest him, wanting to sleep with him. That's all they want to do. Adultery, fornication. That's one of the works of the flesh. But Yusuf got the ruach on him. And being that he got the ruach on him, he said, I can't be nowhere near these type of women. Because that's the works of the flesh. Sexual morality. I can't be around it. I got the fruits of the ruach on me. I'm a virgin. I'm a Bethula. He said, I'm a virgin. You get what it says. And all the wives and the daughters of Mizraim, when they saw Yusuf, suffered badly because of his beauty. They all wanted to be with him. And guess what it says? But Yusuf despised them. He did what? He despised them. And the messengers whom the women sent to him with gold and silver and valuable presents, Yusuf sent back with threats and insults, because Yusuf said, I will not sin. He said, I'm not sinning. He said, why he gonna do that? Because I ain't sinning. And you know the sad part is, he said a woman will do this, and she done did all the stuff that the Mizraim women did. And they don't even got the ruach. They walk according to the flesh. You go into verse 7, it says, before Yahuwah Elohim of my, he said, I will not sin before Yahuwah Elohim the Father, continuing on, nor in the face of my father Yaakov. So he was thinking about his fathers. That's how you got to think. Think about your father. And then it says, in the face of the father Yaakov, Yusuf always had before his eyes, and he remembered his father's commandments. My son, do not forget your father's commandments and the teaching of your mother. And get what it says. For Yaakov would say to his son Yusuf, and all his sons, my children, guard strongly against associating with strange women, because you weren't supposed to marry outside of your family. You know what strange women are today? People who fornicate and commit adultery. Those are strange women. You want to do that? Oh, you strange. I already know you strange. You ain't got nothing about Yahuwah in your mind. And get what it says. And get what it says. For association with her is destruction and corruption. That's all it is. He said, for association is destruction. That's Mastama and all the powers of Satan. And it's corruption. And he said, therefore Yusuf said, let this woman leave this house. And betrayer said to him, Master, this one whom you have seen standing in the upper floor is not strange woman, but she is our daughter, a virgin hating every man. And there is not any other man who has ever seen her except you alone today. And if you will, she will come and address you because our daughter is like a sister to you. That's what sisters do. He's like, you like a sister to me. You're a virgin. I can hang out with you because you know what? She a sister to you, which means she ain't trying to sleep with me. And Yusuf rejoiced exceedingly with a great joy because betrayer has said she is a virgin hating every man. He's like, yeah, that's the type of woman I want to be around. And Yusuf said by himself, if she is a virgin hating every man, this girl will certainly not molest me. She's like, she ain't gonna molest me. She ain't gonna try to destroy me. She ain't gonna try to do that stuff to me. And Yusuf said to Betrayer and his whole family, if she is your daughter and a virgin, let her come, because she is a sister to me, and I love her from today as my sister. He said, I'm gonna love you like my sister then. Verse 8, and Asenath's mother went, chapter 8, and Asenath's mother went up to the upper room and brought her and stood before Yusuf. And Betrayer said said to his daughter Asenath, greet your brother, because he too is a virgin like you today and hates every strange woman as you to every strange man. You have something in common. And guess what happened? He's talking about all things common. And Asenath said to Yusuf, be of good cheer, my master, Barak by the Most High Yahuwah. And Yusuf said to Asenath, may Yahuwah Elohim, who gives life to all things, Barak you. And Betrayer said to the daughter Asenath, go up and kiss your brother. We brothers and sisters, right? That's what we are. And Asenath went up to kiss Yusuf, and Yusuf stretched out his right hand, right? Because that's a right hand, a yod, the open right hand, with the whole, he holds 7 stars in the right hand. And get what he did? And he put it to her chest between her 2 breasts, and her breasts were already standing up like handsome apples, because she already in her mind, because she walking by the flesh. Even though he said that she would not molest him, he already saw that she was already in her mind, her flesh was already rising up, and he put his hand right between her chest. Because he can see with his 7 eyes and this iron that this woman getting ready to molest me. And her father, because she was walking by the flesh the whole time. Remember, she had anger, she had strife, she had all the works of the flesh. Sexual morality was just a part of it. And get what it says. And Yusuf said, it is not fitting for a man who worships Yahuwah, who will barak his mouth, the living Elohim, and to eat the bread of life. Yahushua said, I'm the bread which comes out from Shamayim. And to drink a barak cup of immortality, and anoint himself with barak ointment and incorruptibility, to kiss a strange woman who will bless her mouth with dumb idols. That's how he knew. Remember, on all her bracelets had all the Mizraim gods. And the things that she adorned herself had all the gods of Mizraim. And eat from their table the bread of strangulation, and to drink their libation in the cups of their idiotousness, and anoint herself with ointment of destruction. He's like, that's what you do. You know what he said? But a man who worships Yahuwah will kiss his mother and his sister who is born of his mother, and the sister who is born of his clan, and family, and the wife who shares his bed, all of whom bless with their mouths the living Elohim. Likewise, for a woman who worships Yahuwah, it is not fitting to kiss a strange woman. Who worship idols. Who worship idols, it is not fitting to kiss a strange woman, because that is an abomination before Yahuwah Elohim. He said that's an abomination. He said that's an abomination. He said, son of Adam, just like in the book of Ezekiel. He said, son of Adam, these people have set up idols in their heart. Going over, he said that when Asenath heard these words of Yusuf, she will cut to their heart. That's what he was trying to do, cut you down. You should be cut to the heart. He said, how many times you got cut to the heart? Twice. He said, it still ain't get you yet. Why do you think Yahushua cried out twice? It ain't cut to you to the heart yet. Strongly, and was distressed, exceedingly sighed, and she kept gazing at Yusuf with her eyes open and her eyes filled with tears. You know why? Because she got cut to the heart twice. She was filled with tears. She was crying. You know why? Because just like Yahushua was on the ground, that woman was on the ground, she said, I came in here and this woman just kept kissing me with tears, and you ain't did nothing for me. That's the same thing happened to Qahalath, when he was cut to their heart after he denied him 3 times. He was crying, weeping with tears. And amazingly, he said, to this person when I look, he was a poor and contrite heart. He just cut it to the heart. He said, have he cut you to the heart yet? Because this is Zion, this is the 7th letter of the alphabet, swore not rest law word perfection. This is the 7th day. And get what it says. And Yusuf saw her and had mercy on her exceedingly, and was himself cut to the heart. Now he cut to the heart because he saw her tears. Why? Because when you start to show some type of emotion, then Yahushua starts to show some emotion. It's like, return unto me and I return to you. She's weeping. Then he got cut to the heart. I didn't mean to make you cry. He said, man, how you get that type of compassion from Yahuwah? You gotta shed some tears. If you don't, then how he gonna show anything for you? That's the only way. Because Yahuwah was a meek, He was meek and merciful, fearing Elohim. He lifted up his right hand and put it upon her head and said, Yahuwah Elohim was my father Yasharal, the Most High, the powerful one of Yaakov, who gave life to all things and called them from darkness to light, and from the error to the truth, and from the death of life. You, Yahuwah, Barak this virgin, this Bethula, and renew her by the Ruach. And renew her by your Ruach. Because she was walking by the works of the flesh. She was in strife and anger, fits of anger, and she was worshiping idols, idolatry. And he said, renew her by her Ruach, by your Ruach. And guess what happens? And form her anew by your hidden hand, and make her alive again by your life. And let her eat your bread of life, and drink your cup of Barak, and number her, and her number among your people that you have chosen before all things came into being. And let her enter your rest, which you have prepared for your chosen ones, and live in your eternal's life forever and ever. Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And by testing you, right? You. Nobody got to teach you this. Nobody has to teach you how to do this. May discern what is the will of Yahuwah, what is good and acceptable and perfect. How she was able to determine that? Because she got cut to the heart. She was speaking evil against him, and then he told her the truth. And then she got cut to the heart, and then he prayed for her and said, renew her by your Ruach. Because that's the only way you're going to get renewed. You got to get cut first. Right, this is chapter 9. And Asenath rejoiced exceedingly with great joy over Yusuf Barak blessing, and hurried and went into the upper floor by herself, and fell on her bed exhausted, because in her there was joy and distress, and much fear and trembling, and continuous sweating. And she heard all these words of Yusuf, which he had spoken to her in the name of the Most High Yahuwah, and she wept with a great bitter weeping, and repented of her infatuations with the gods whom she used to worship, and spurned all the idols, and waited for evening to come. And Yusuf ate and drank, and told his servants, harness the horses to the chariots. And he said, I will go away and drive around the whole land. And Petreius said to Yusuf, let my master lodge here today, and tomorrow you will go out your way. And Yusuf said, no. Yusuf said, no. He said, no, but I will go out today, because this is the day which Yahuwah began to make all his creatures. And on the 8th day, when this day returns, I will return to you and lodge here, right? Chapter 10, we're going through chapter 11. It says, and Yusuf went away on his way to Petreius, and to his whole family went away to their estates. And Asenath was left alone with the 7 virgins, and she continued to be weighed down and weeping until sunset. And she ate no bread and drank no water. And night fell, and all the people in the house slept, and she alone was awake and continued to brood and weep. And she often struck her breast with her hand, and kept being filled with great fear, and trembled in heavy trembling. And Asenath rose from her bed and quietly went down to the stairs from the upper floor, and went to the gateway, and the woman, the gatekeeper, was asleep with her children. And Asenath hurried to look, and took down from the window the skin which hung from a curtain, and filled it with ashes from the fireplace, and carried it up to the upper floor, and put it on the floor. And she closed the door firmly, and slipped into the iron bolt across the side, and greatly sighing and bitter weeping. She was crying. Why? Because her ashes become her bread, and her tears become her drink. And her tears become her drink, right? It says, and the virgin who was her foster sister, it says, whom Asenath loved beyond all virgins, heard her sighing, and hurried and woke up the other 6 virgins. And they went to Asenath and found the door closed. And they heard Asenath sighing and weeping, and said to her, What have you, mistress? And what do you feel so sad? And what is it that is bothering you? Open the door to us, and we will see what you have. And Asenath did not open the door, but said to them from within, my head is stricken with heavy pain. Isn't that what the young man said when he went to go to his father, whom Eliashib Barak with a child, and he grabbed his head and he laid on his mother's waist, and he died right there. He said, my head. And get what it says. For I am resting in my bed, and I do not have strength, because you had a headache. You know how you get a headache, migraine? To rise open, it says, strength, to rise open the door to you, because I have grown weak in my limbs. But go each of you into your chambers and rest, and let me be quiet. She got weak in her legs. She got weak in her legs again. It says, and the virgins went away each into her chamber. And Asenath rose and opened the door quietly, and went into her chamber where the chest and containing her ornaments were, and opened her coffer, and took out a black somber tunic, and this was her tunic of mourning. And when her younger brother died, in this Asenath had dressed and mourned for her brother. And she took her black tunic and carried it unto the chamber, and closed the door again firmly, and slipped the bolt across. And Asenath hurried to put off her linen and gold woven royal robe, and dressed in black tunic of mourning, and loosened her golden girdle, the girdle rope around her, and put off her tiara on her head, and diadem, and the bracelets in her hands, and her feet, and put everything on the floor. And she took her chosen robe and the golden girdle and the headgear and the diadem and threw everything through the window, looking north to the port. And Asenath hurried and took all her gods that were in her chamber, the one gold and silver, who were without number, and ground them into pieces, and threw all the idols of Mizraim through the window, looking to the north from the upper floor to the beggars and the needy persons. He said, that's what you're going to have to do. You got to throw them all away. How else are you going to be able to achieve this? And Asenath took her royal dinner, and the fatlings, and the fish, and the flesh, and the heifer, and all the sacrifices to her gods, and the vessels of the wine and libations, and threw everything through the window, looking north, and gave everything to strange dogs. And get what? For Asenath said herself, by no means must my dog eat from my dinner and from my sacrifice of idols, but let the strange dogs eat those. And after that, Asenath took the skin full of ashes and poured it on the door, right? She won't give them dogs them idol food because she knew that dog gonna turn on them. You put that, you give them dog idol food. People say, why do dogs be attacking people? He said, right? And she took a piece of sackcloth and girded it around her waist, and she loosened the clasp of the hair of her head and sprinkled ashes upon her head. And she scattered the ashes all on the floor and struck her breast often with both hands and wept bitterly and fell upon the ashes and wept with great bitter weeping all night with sighing and screaming. With sighing and screaming until the daybreak. Isn't that what he said Yahusha did? He said he learned obedience to the things he suffered. He said with strong crying and tears. He cried unto him who was able to deliver him from death. That's the same thing she's doing right here. He said he learned obedience to the things he suffered. That's how he learned obedience. Right? And Asenath rose at daybreak and looked, and behold, there were much mud from her tears and from the ashes. And Asenath fell again upon her face in the ashes till evening and until the setting of the sun. And this was Asenath did for 7 days. And she ate no bread and drank no water in those days of her humiliation. Right, that's one of the most beautiful virgins on the earth. But she got rid of those idols. She done removed the idols. Now what? And on the 8th day, behold, it was dawn, and the birds were already sighing, and the dogs barking at the people who were passing through. And Asenath lifted up her head, and a little from the floor, and the ashes on which was lying, because she was exceedingly tired, and she could not control her limbs because of want for food for 7 days. And she rose on her knees and put her hand on the floor and lifted herself up a little from the floor, and she was still bowing her head, and her hairs of her head were stretched out in strands from the loaves of ashes. And Asenath clasped her fingers against her finger, and she shook her head to and fro, and struck her breast continuously with her hands clapped, and laid her head in her lap. And her face was flooded with her tears, and she sighed with great sighing, and pulled her hairs from her head, and sprinkled ashes on her head. And Asenath was tired and had become discouraged, and her strength was gone. And she turned upward to the wall and sat below the window looking east. And she laid her head into her lap, clasping her fingers round her right knee. And her mouth was closed, and she had not opened it for 7 days, and in 7 nights of her humiliation. And she said in her heart, without opening her mouth, what shall I do, miserable that I am, and where shall I go? So she's still in that state. With whom shall I take refuge, and what shall I speak? He said, whom am I going to take refuge in, and what shall I speak? And what he said, I, the virgin and orphan, and a desolate and abandoned and hated. All people have come to hate me. And on top of those, my father and my mother, because I too have come to hate their gods. Why do you think he said, Yahushua said, I am a man. He said, and no marvel, the world hated you for they hated me first. He said, it's written in your Torah, they hated me without a cause. And go what it says. I hate their God and have destroyed them and caused them to be trampled underfoot by men. And therefore my father and my mother and my whole family have come to hate me and said, Asenath is no longer our daughter because she has destroyed our gods. He said, you done destroyed our gods. And all the people hate me because I too have come to hate every man and all who ask for my hand in marriage. And now in this humiliation of mine, all have come to hate me and gloat over this affliction of mine. And Yahuwah Elohim of the powerful Yusuf, the Most High, hates all those who worship idols, because he is a jealous and terrible Elohim toward all those who worship strange gods. Therefore he has come to hate me too, because I worship dead and dumb idols, and barak them, and ate their sacrifices, and my mouth is defiled. People say, he sent the lying spirit in your tongue. No, your tongue has tasted of food after sacrifice to idols. And it's taught your tongue to lie. It's taught your tongue to have anger. It's taught your tongue to have strife. It's taught your tongue to have rivalries. It's just taught your tongue to do that. Because you ate it in the past and you never repented from it, so therefore it's still in your tongue. He said, that's why your appetites, right? My mouth is defiled from their table, and I do not have the boldness to call on Yahuwah Elohim of Shamaim, the Most High, the Mighty One of the powerful Yusuf, because my mouth is defiled from the sacrifices of the idols. But I have heard many saying what? That Elohim of the Hebrews, Abyd, is a true Elohim. Oh, she looked like one of the Bethula, the virgins of the Abyd. She had an appearance of them, of righteousness, but inwardly, she had on sheep's clothing too, but inwardly she was a ravening wolf. But inwardly she a ravening wolf. She got the appearance of righteousness, but guess what? Now she's turning. And guess what happens? And a living Elohim, and a merciful Yahuwah, and compassionate, and long-suffering, and pitiful, and gentle. And does not count the sin of the humble person, the contrite. To this person will I look. He or she who's of a humble and contrite heart, who trembles at my debar. And get what it says. Nor expose the lawless deeds of an afflicted person, right, at the time of his affliction. Therefore I will take courage and turn to him, and take refuge with him, and confess all my sins to him. Right? He said, why? He said, why am I going to do it all? And pour out my supplication before him. Who knows? Maybe he will see my humiliation and have mercy on me. Perhaps he will see the desolation of mine and have compassion on me, and see my orphanage and protect me, because he is the father of the orphans, and the protector of the persecuted and of the afflicted, a helper. And I will take courage and cry to him. Right, this Numbers 5:5. And Yahuwah spoke to Mashah, saying, speak to the people of Yasharal, when a man or woman commits any sins that the people commit by breaking a munah of one Elohim. And we talked about, he comes to turn you from, how you say, error and doubt, and turn you from one Elohim. With Yahuwah, that person realizes guilt, he shall confess his sins that he has committed. Right? Psalms 32:5. I acknowledge my sin to thee, and my iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will confess my transgressions unto you, Lord, and thou forgavest the iniquity of my sin. Talim 38:18. I confess my iniquity, and I am sorry for my sin. He said, I am sorry for it. Right? That word for sorry is da'ag. You know, da'ag. 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 It means to fear, to be anxious, to be concerned, to be afraid, careful, concern, to take thought. Right, this is Joseph Asinoff, 18, right? This is the reason why I'm doing this. Joseph Asinoff chapter 18, skipping over. And Asinoff was still saying these things to herself. Behold, a young man from Betrayer's service staff, this is after she did all that, confessed her sin, but going to the end. Her servant staff rushed in and said, Behold, Joseph, the powerful one of Yahuwah, is coming up to us today, for a foreigner of his standing in the gate's court. And Asinoff hurried and called her father and steward of her house and said unto him, Hurry and make the house ready and prepare a good dinner, because Joseph, the powerful one of Yahuwah, is coming us today. Hurry up. And her foster father saw her, and behold, her face had fallen from the affliction and the weeping and the fasting for 7 days. He said her face has shrunk up. She ain't looking as beautiful as one of all Shamaim. And he was distressed and wept. And he took her right hand and kissed it and said, What have you, my child? Because your face has fallen so much. And Asinoff said, My head is stricken with heavy pain, and the sleep kept away from my eyes, and therefore my face has fallen. And her foster father went away and prepared the house and the dinner. He said, Look at you. Right? And Asinoff remembered the man from Shamaim, and he commanded, and he hurried and entered her second chamber, where the chest containing her ornaments were, and opened her big coffer and brought out her first robe, the one of the wedding, like lightning in appearance, and dressed in it. When the Malachi at the tomb, they had white on white garments, and it was just like lightning. When the woman came early in the morning at Arab, which is spelled with an iron at the front of it. But that's the evening time spelled with an iron. And she rose early in the morning like a Kaya woman. And he said her garments shone like lightning. And dressed in it. And she girded a golden and a royal girdle herself, which was made of precious stones. And she put on golden bracelets in her fingers, and her golden buskins and precious ornaments she put on around her neck, with an innumerable costly and precious stones were fastened, and the golden crown that was put on her head. She ain't put on them Egyptian gods anymore. And on that crown, in the front of her brow, was a big sapphire stone. Huh? Oh, you mean like Yahuwah's throne? Like his Qahalath, his Sapir, his sapphire throne? She put a sapphire throne, and around the big stone were 6 costly stones. She put a sapphire stone, just like Yahuwah's feet. You know what's at Yahuwah's feet? Under his feet? Sapphire. Guess what she getting ready to be? At his feet. She already wept at his feet with strong tears and crying and screaming. She knew where she was supposed to belong, right? And it says, and with a veil she covered her father, and with a veil, she covered her head with a bridle, like a bride, and she took a scepter in her hand. She put herself, got a ruler's staff. He said, why do you think in your patience possessing your soul? He said, because you're supposed to rule over yourself. That's why you put the scepter in your hand. Right? And Asinoff remembered the words of her foster father, because he had said to her, your face has fallen. And guess what? And she sighed with much bitter distress and said, woe is me, the humble, because my face has fallen. And Yusuf will see me and despise me. That's what Yahusuf's going to do when he see you. And you ain't presenting your best when he see you. That's what he going to do. He'll be like, you come to the wedding feast? Because they were at midnight. He said it was a cry meeting. He said, come on into the wedding feast. And you're going to come in looking like that? And he should be always ready and dressed for action. And you're going to come in looking like that. And she said to her foster sister, bring me pure water from the spring and I will wash my face. He said, I got to wash my face. I got to do something. I got to make sure I wash my face. And guess what he said? And she brought the pure water from the spring and poured it in a basin. Isn't that what the basin, isn't that what you pour the hyssop in? When you do the strike the doorpost of the house? Isn't that what you put in the basin? You dip the hyssop in the basin, and then you strike it on your doorpost and the side posts. And get what it says. And Asenath leaned over to wash her face and saw her face in the water. And it was like the sun. And her eyes were shining like rising of the star. And her cheeks like the fields of the Most High. And her cheeks there was red color like the Son of Man's blood. Huh? Just from the basin. It was just like the Son of Man what? His blood. You were not redeemed with corruptible things, silver and gold, with this precious blood of Yahushua Mashiach. It was just like his blood, striking on the doorpost, on the side post, and on the top of your door, and on your gate. Make sure you put it everywhere. And guess what happened? And her lips were like the rose of life coming out of the foliage, and her teeth like fighting men lined up for flight. They were so straight. And her hair of her head was like the vine, in the praises of Elohim, prospering in its fruits. And her neck like the Alvingard cypress. And her breasts were like the mountains of the Most High Yahuwah. And when Asenath saw herself in the water, she was amazed at the sight and rejoiced great joy, and did not wash her face. And she said, perhaps I will wash off this great beauty. And yet what happened after that? And her foster father came to say to her, everything is prepared as you have commanded. Amazing when Yahushua said, when you fast, he said, make sure you wash your face. Don't be going outside looking crazy. You represent me. As a matter of fact, because you might actually see me out there. So make sure you wash your face. Because you might actually see, people think, Yahushua ain't going, you don't never see Yahushua. You be fasting, looking all crazy and gloomy, and you probably walk right by him. One of these days you were fasting and you weren't even looking proper. And he probably saw you, and he'd be like, this hypocrite. He probably wasn't like a little child, maybe. He probably appeared like an old man, or probably came in like somebody else, and you was out here and you ain't wash your face, and he probably ran into you like. Probably came in the form. You don't know, because you got Malachi everywhere. He got eyes everywhere. And guess what he said? Perhaps I will wash out this great beauty, for her foster father came to say to her, everything is prepared as you have commanded. And when he saw her, he was alarmed and stood speechless for a long time and was filled with great fear. Just like she was when she saw Yusuf for the first time. And fell at her feet. And he fell at her feet and said, what is this, my mistress? And what is this great, wonderful beauty? At last, Yahuwah Elohim of Shamaim has chosen you as a bride for his firstborn son, Yusuf. So you think Yahuwah going to choose a woman, a virgin, who ain't presenting her best, and her beautiful, and her beauty? He said, you think Yahuwah, Yahushua himself, you supposed to present yourself as a willing sacrifice, without being acceptable in beauty. He said, at last, he chosen you. Many are called, but few are chosen. I haven't chosen you because you are the number, or most of the number, because you were the few people who would actually do this. That's the reason. Are you the few? He said, are you the broad people? That's the whole point. Right? That's the whole point. Right? So this is NT Father of Nassim, Fathers Apocrypha of the New Testament, Volume 8. Right? It says, and the Shalakim went into the city, and all the multitude accompanied him. And he thought of going to the parents of the young man whom when he killed by the dragon, he brought to life, for they earnestly entreated him to come to them and to enter into their house. And a certain woman exceedingly beautiful, right, real beautiful, right, exceedingly beautiful, suddenly uttered a loud cry, saying, Shalakim, O Shalakim of the new Elohim, who has come into India, a servant of that Chdsh and only good Elohim. For through thee he is proclaimed the Savior of the souls that come unto him. And through thee he heals the bodies of those who are punished by the enemy, by Satan, Satna. And thou hast become the cause of life to all who turn to him. Order me to be brought before thee, that I may declare to thee what has happened to me. and that perhaps there may be hope to me from thee, and those who stand beside thee may have more and more hope in the Elohim whom thou proclaimest. For I am not a little tormented by the adversary who has assailed me, for now a period of 5 years. He said, I've been tormented for 5 years by Satan. As a woman, I formerly sat down in peace, and peace encompassed me. And on all sides I have nothing to trouble me, for nothing else had I a care. And it happened on one of the days, as I was coming forth from the bath, there met me one like a man troubled and disturbed, and his voice and utterance seemed to me to be indistinct and very weak. And he said, standing over against me, thou and I shall be in one love. He's like, man, he came in a still small voice. He was like a man. And he said, we're going to be in love, and we shall have intercourse with each other. He said, as a man is coupled with a wife. He said, basically, we're going to fornicate today. And we finna sleep together. He just came up to her and said, we're going to sleep together. That's literally what he just said. We're going to have fornication and we're going to sleep together. Matter of fact, we're not even going to join in marriage. We're going to do it just like a husband and a wife, which means we're not going to get married, which means we're going to commit sexual morality and we're going to walk after the flesh. And get what he said. And I answered him, saying, to my betrothed I consider not, entreating him not to marry me, and to thee wishing to have intercourse with me, as it were in adultery, because it would be adultery if I slept. I'm a betrothed and I sleep with you. It'd be adultery. I gotta wait till I sign the ketubah agreement, right, or anything like that, right? But he's saying, how shall I give myself up? And then he said, and having thus spoken, I went away from him. He said, what? How am I going to give myself up to you? He said, I went away from him. And to my maid I said, to my what? To my maid I said, hast thou seen the young man and his shamelessness? How shamelessly and boldly he talked to me? Because you ever had somebody do that to you? Come up to you boldly and say something like that to you? Because I'm sure it's happened to you at least more than 3-4 times in your life. And get what he said. And get what he says. And I answered him, saying and he said right here, and she said to me, it was an old man that I saw talking with thee, right? She saw this apparition as an old man talking to her, but she saw a young man in her face. In her mind, in her world, where the being appeared to her, it looked like a young man to her. But to somebody else looking from another way, it was an old man talking to you. Right? And get what it says. Has thou seen, he says, it was an old man talking to me. And when I was in my own house and had supped, my mind suggests to me, and get what it says, and had supped, my mind suggested to me some suspicion. And especially because he had appeared to me in 2 forms. He was in 2 forms. And I fell asleep having the same thing in my thoughts. So she still had it in her makashaba, her yetzer. And get what happened after that. And he came that night and made me share in his filthy commerce. How the being came, shapeshifted into a young man, but the other people saw was a old man. And then he came into her room at night. And then he made her share in his filthy commerce. How you say, his wages, his exchange. She made her share in it. And I saw him when it was day and fled from him. But according to his wont, he came at night and abused me. And now, as thou seest, I have been tormented by him 5 years. What's that? This spirit. For 5 years, this demon, this shadim. He said, this demon, this shadim, won't leave me alone. And guess what? And he has not departed from me. But I know and am persuaded that even demons and spirits and avenging deities are subject to thee, and tremble at thy prayer. Pray then for me, and drive away from me the demon that torments me, that I also may become free. and may be brought to my former nature. Why? What do you mean former nature? Because as long as that demon was in her and tormented her, she was never in her former nature. And guess what happened? And I will receive the gift that has been granted to my kindred. I'm going to receive that gift that are you talking about? Right? This is an Iccubus, right? An Iccubus, or Iccubusus, or Ichabod, is a male demon in human form in folklore that seeks to have sexual intercourse with sleeping women. Right? This is an Iccubus demon. The corresponding spirit in female form is called a Succubus. Parallel exists in many. An Iccubus, an evil spirit at one time thought to lie in on a person in their sleep, especially one thought to have sexual intercourse with sleeping with women, right? And sleeping with women, right? That's what they do. And it says right here, what is it? What are Iccubus powers? Death by sexual intercourse. Right? That's fornication and adultery. That's all it wants to do. Death by sexual intercourse. And guess what? Dream walking, aneric slaying. It'll make you dream walk. Also, enhanced condition of supernatural condition, enhanced dexterity and supernatural dexterity. It also means enslavement kiss. Once it kisses you, it'll have you enslaved, just like this woman, for 5 years. All right, once you kiss a person like this who had this being, they're gonna enslave you forever, and you ain't gonna never break free, right? But this is the only way. Invisibility, right? They can shapeshift from one form to another. It was like a male form, and then it went to a female form. Or it was a male form, and then it went to an old man, or a young man to an old man. Right? And it says also kiss of death, like forced absorption. They steal your energy. He said it's like Aydahchay, but it's not Aydahchay. And get what it says? It says malleable, anatomy, shape-shifting. Right? That's what we just saw, we just read about. He shape-shifted. It says mental inducement, manipulation, desire inducement. That's why it hit her thoughts in her mind. He said it made me participate in the action, which means she was either doing something in her body or she was masturbating or doing things that were opposite of what you would, basically in her mind. It was entrapping her for 5 years. It says flatteries. It also means, I put this, flattery soiled compliments. When you think that's soiled, it makes everything soiled. Soiled compliments. These are words. They induce you with these words in your consciousness, in your mind, while you sleep at night. Because this is not a much watching, ayin ish lapid, and they induce these words in your mind, and then they cause your mind to give heed to what they're saying. And then they entrap you, and that's how they layer you. It's like any other smooth speech. Leviathan, just like the dragon. It's smooth speech, a smooth tongue that come in your mind, right? Right? What are the symptoms of an Iccubus? What are the signs of having Iccubus? Dreaming of seductive or sexual content, feeling like someone is trying to keep you from relationships. That's what it is. Feeling like someone is trying to run away any potential marriages. Feeling like you are barren. He said these are all the signs of an Iccubus demon. What does the Iccubus demon do? Iccubus demon is a male form that seeks to have sexual intercourse with sleeping women and corresponding spirit in a female. We just talking about medieval union of an Iccubus was supposed by some to result in the birth of witches, demons, and deformed human offspring. Right? They could create these beings. That's what they say in folklore. Right? But we know it ain't old folklore. This stuff is real. And people say it ain't real. It is real. And guess what? Signs of an Iccubus in male servant is spirit believed to sexually assault people during sleep, including experiencing of intense pressure on their chest during sleep, sleep paralysis, vivid nightmares, and male figures. Right? Anybody, you ever seen a shining man appear in your house in a dream, in your room? And you'd be like, that's Yahuwah himself. And that's exactly how that's how the fallen angel Malachi get women. And he said, you ever experienced it alone? He said, it's just him trying to trick you. And it says feeling of suffocation, sexual sensation during sleep, and waking up with a sense of dread or anxiety, always jumpy. anxiety, and often associated with feeling of being violated or attacked while seemingly unable to move. Right, so this is a succubus. A succubus, an imaginary demon assuming female form, formerly held to have sexual intercourse with men in their sleep, male and female. It says, a succubus is a female demon popularized in religious folklore and mythology. A succubus demon can be believed to be sexual in nature, appearing to men in dreams or in physical world to seduce them, to steal their energy. He says, steal their energy. And in some cases, kill them. Right, they'll jump inside of a woman to try to kill you. Why? Because they are jealous and envious that you got a relationship. And if that woman ain't got the ruach, she becomes a direct weapon for the succubus spirit. And get what happens? In mythology folklore, succubus are female demons with sexual powers that include seduction, energy theft, and killing. They also may have the ability to manipulate dreams and sleep. Seductive magnetism, subliminal seduction, right? That's subliminal messages, like things they put in your mind. Sex appeal combat, sex empowerment, and sexual inducement. Dream manipulation, dream imprisonment, dream walking, aneric slaying, and sleep inducement. Aneric slaying means dreams and dreaming, which means they have the ability to appear in your dreams and appear as any woman you want. In your imagination, Iccubus can appear in your dreams and appear as any man you want. Any man you desire, and it'll just appear in your thought process. And be an apparition. You know what it says? Energy manipulation. It says demonic energy manipulation, energy absorption, and life force absorption. That's what it does. It takes your energy away. That's why they sleep with you at night. You wake up and you have no energy at all. Then sucked all your energy out of your body. Right? Telekinesis. It says succubi are often depicted as being able to move and manipulate objects with their mind. He said, that's how you know. He said, yeah, you jump in your mind, and you'd be like, man, they'll jump inside of the female woman that you're with. To use her body to keep you entrapped. And then guess what? Drive her away so you can be alone with her. They'll do that. And guess what? Supernatural seduction. Succubi are often depicted as being able to use their powers of seduction to manipulate and control others. That's what they'll do. They'll jump inside of a woman and make you be alone with her. And guess what? Often leading to the victim's downfall or demise. Because she will do that. These beings will do that in your household, in your family, in your marriage, in your wives, in your wives. And guess what happens? What is a succubus capable of? Succubus is a female demon popularized, or you read that, what is believed to have sexual nature appearing in men's dreams. You read that. But he said, what is the job of succubus? Succubus is understood as the Lilin demon. In the female form or supernatural entity that appears in dreams to seduce men, usually through sexual activity. Succubus will result in the bond of being formed between succubus and the persons, and the succubus will drain or harm the man with whom she is having intercourse. She will suck the energy out of you, and she will harm you, whom she's having intercourse with. Why would this spirit do that? And it says, how to spot a succubus. Succubus may take the form of a beautiful woman, but closer inspection may reveal deformities of her body, such as bird-like claws or serpentine tails. Right, this book of Yeshayahu, chapter 34, 8 through 17. For Yahuwah has a day of vengeance, a year of recompense. For the cause of Saon, the streams of Edom shall be turned into pitch, and her soil into sulfur. Her land shall become burning pitch. Night and day it shall not be quenched, its smoke shall go up forever. It's from generation to generation. It shall lie waste, none shall pass through it forever and ever. But the hawk and the porcupine shall pass through, possess it. The owl and the raven shall dwell in it. Right? There's going to be nobody in it, no inhabitant. And he shall stretch the line of confusion, right? Through over it, right? and the plumb line of the emptiness. That's tahu, right? Emptiness, it says to stretch the line of tahu over it, and the plumb line of bohu, of emptiness. We just talked about batana. He said he's going to stretch that over it. Right? That word for, because tohu is formless, confusion. And that word, confusion, that's what philosophy does. Unreality, emptiness. To waste, desolation. Formless, confusion, unreality, emptiness. That's what Succubus does, Iccubus does. Formless and shapeless. Confusion, unreality in your dreams. Same exact thing. Desolation. Vain, vanity. Same thing when it came to vanity. All is vanity and vexation. Right? Same thing, right? Bohu, emptiness, void, waste. That's what it means. Bohu. That word for emptiness is bohu. Undistinguishable ruin. That's what they come to do. They come to kill you. It says the kiss of death. Kill you through sexual intercourse. Destroy you. To suck your energy out. Destroy your mind. Right? This Rashyth 1 and 3. In the beginning, Yahuwah Elohim created the Shamanis and earth. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Ruach of Yahuwah was hovering on the face of the waters. It was darkness. Darkness. He said, awake thou that sleepest and arise from the dead, and Yahushua will shine on you. And Yahuwah said, let there be light. He will shine on you. And there was light. And Yahuwah Elohim saw the light, it was good. And Yahuwah separated the light from the darkness, separating joint from marrow, from soul from Ruach, from the demon. Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and morning the first day. What? Bereshit bara Elohim at hashamayim uharadetz, and it says uharadetz. Haya, and this is right here, tohu ubohu kashat. Joined to, tent peg. So you got emptiness and void joined to darkness. You got emptiness and void, and he's a destruction joined to darkness. That's what happens in the nighttime, in the night watches. It will destroy you. These beings will destroy your heart, your mind. They'll destroy your intuition. They'll destroy your mind. They'll destroy your partners, your relationships, who you with. They'll destroy you, and they'll hide in the corner of your house and give you sparks of fire. They will destroy you. And they all come through fornication and the people you have fornication with. He said, if you have committed fornication in your life, if you committed adultery, if you've done anything things in your life, these demons, follow you because they want to continue to have a relationship with you. And it said right here, Yeshayahu 34, 12 through 7, its nobles there is no one there to call it a kingdom. And all its princes shall be nothing. Thorns shall grow over its stronghold. So when this thing comes to nothing, that's destruction. And thorns shall grow over its stronghold, and nettles and thistles in its fortresses. And it shall be a haunt of jackals in the abode of ostriches. Same verse. Right? That word for jackals is dragon. Tanim. It's going to be the haunt of the dragon when you go to darkness. Leviathan, Iccubus, and Succubus. When you're in darkness, and there's nothing inhabiting, guess what happens? In your mind, and there's no light, the dragon, the serpent, the sea monster, the venomous snake. It says the succubus had serpentine tails. Right? The dragon. Right? That word for ostriches is bath. Right? It says it's going to be the head of a jackal, of a tanim, of the dragon, and it's going to be like a daughter. A girl, a daughter-in-law, a sister, a granddaughter, a young woman. It's going to transform itself into, the dragon going to transform itself into a woman. That word for ostrich is a woman. Why would they put ostriches? A daughter, an apple. Like you see all of, they talk about mythology, how they talk about how ostriches stick their head in the ground. You know what they say. But they say it ain't true. But then you start to see on Instagram, everybody cover their face with it. or they just show like this and they go like this, and they throw it on the ground, and people say, "What is that?" But they say it's mythology, though. Ostriches don't bury their head and don't want their face to be seen. And it says right here, it's Yeshayahu 34:14-17. And the wild animals shall meet with the hyenas, and the wild goat shall cry to his fellow. Indeed, there the night bird settles and finds for herself a resting place. A what? It finds a resting place. You know how you sleep at night? Makuth. And it says, there the owl nests, and the lay hatches and gathers her young in her shadow. Indeed, there the hawks are gathered, each one with her mate. With her mate. Seek. It says, seek and read from the book of Yahuwah. Not one of these shall be missing. None shall be without her mate. But if you are without your, for the mouth of Yahuwah has commanded, and his ruach has gathered them. He has cast the lot for them, and his hand has portioned it out to them with the line, and they shall possess it forever, from generation to generation. They shall dwell in it. What that word for wild animals is see. See, they say wild beast, a desert dweller. He talks about when an unclean ruach goes out of a person, a man or woman, is seeking in the dry places. When it finds nowhere to rest, it comes back to his house where it came out from, and the last state of that person be worse than the first. And what happens after that? The word for hyenas is E. Howling jackal. Right? You ever been in darkness, you go, and you have them jackals going off, and you've ever been in there, a howler, a wolf. Right? It says it's like a jackal, but this word right here. It says a wild goat. It says it's going to be, it says it's meet with the hyenas and a wild goat. Right? With that word for wild goat is sayir. It means possessed goat like swine, a devil, a demon-possessed goat. It's sayir, a wild goat, a demon-possessed goat, a shaggy male goat, a satyr, a demon. A demon. That's what's going to be there. And it says right here, and it says, and shall cry to his fellow. It says, and shall cry to his fellow. It says, shall cry to his friend, his companion. He says, the goat demon shall cry to his fellow, another friend, his fellow citizen and associate. And who that associate is? Shall cry indeed to his fellow, indeed, there the night bird settles. What's a night bird? That word for night bird is Lilith. You know, the Lilith demon, the succubus demon, the female demon. Lilith. Lilith, that's what they call it. Lilith. Lilith is the name of the female goddess known as the night demon. The succubus demon. And guess what? The Shadim, who haunts desolate places. And it says it's a nocturnal animal, but it says a night scepter. A screech owl, that's what it says. A root to scorn. It also means what? To the scoffers, deride, envoys, right? Mocks, a mocker, a scoffer. Lilith, a succubus spirit, a succubus spirit. Wow, it says, and none, it says, this is right here, that word for her mate, it says, indeed, there the hawks are gathered, each one with her mate. That word for mate is Ra'uth, a female companion, a mate, a neighbor woman, another mate, a female associate. He said they all work together. Everybody's showing up. He said, seek ye out the book and read. It says another one, it says a mate. a neighbor woman, right? Right. Look, it says right here, the curse is in the essence of the Succubus Iccubus forces that allows them to do everything that can do to either attract a mate or to feed off of them. That's why they get other mates, other women to join in with them. Right? They get them, and then they use all those women together to feed off of other people, after other men. And that's what they do together. And they do this to feed off each other, to feed on other men. The succubus demon and their crew. And they do this all at night, in Kashak, in emptiness and void, in tohu and bohu, in darkness. And guess what it says? How does succubus reproduce? A succubus will have sexual relations with a human male. So this woman will commit fornication and sleep with a man. And guess what happens? And so acquired a sample of his sperm, and she acquired a sample of his sperm in her pouch. This she will then pass to an Iccubus, a man who has an Iccubus demon. And guess what happens? Who then corrupts and strengthens the seed. And then the other person who has the Iccubus spirit will sleep with her after she sleeps with somebody else. And she will take that seed, store it in her pouch, and then go sleep with another man. And then he will sleep with her, and then he will strengthen the seed. And then he'll take that seed from out of that woman whom she slept with, the first one, man she slept with. And then what? The Iccubus will then, in turn, transfer this sperm. He will take that seed that's transferred from another man that she had inside of her body and take that sperm from that man. And you know what she's going to do with that? She's going to pass it to the next man she sleep with. And guess what that man getting ready to do right now? And corrupts and strengthens the seed. The Iccubus will, in turn, transfer this sperm to a human female and thus impregnate her and impregnate her with a child made from another man. But it wasn't his sperm. It was from another man that she slept with him, and he slept with her, but she slept with another man and took that sperm and she gave it to him. And that seed traveled along all the way to another woman. And that child that was created by two men through fornication and impregnated one woman. Together. And people say, why do you be getting all these things? Some of them, you are not the Father. You are not the Father. You are not the Father. Of course you won't be. Because it's through fornication. Because those seeds travel. And by the time you figure it out, you done passed a seed of another person over to another woman, and you be like, man, that's not even my child. Of course it ain't. Because it's a seed from a Succubus and Iccubus demon, spirit. And people say, why does he command people not to commit fornication? That's why. And then once you become a victim, and you become like, oh, you don't do that no more? That's how them spirits be. You don't do that no more? Well, they trying to get back though. They say, you don't do that no more, huh? Right? So they say the Lilith is said to have Adam's first wife, created from the dust and living in the Garden of Eden. She left after refusing to submit to Adam, right? That's why you see the Lilith spirit as a scoffer, a mocker, things of that sort. Because that spirit will cause these behaviors in your wife. It's called the Succubus spirit. And it says, Lilith is said to have been a Mesopotamian demon called Lilu, and which translates as the night monster. How you say Tohu and Bohu, the night monster. That's what she is. She's the night monster. And you always said, Lilith is said to have been a Babylonian female demon called Lilutu. Some examples of female demons with green eyes could include the succubus-like creature. You ever seen a green-eyed demon in your dreams? A green-eyed woman in your dreams? If you've seen a green-eyed woman in your dreams, you just saw the succubus spirit. And she is you. And you are her. Because she manipulating your dreams. Because she don't want to let you go. Because you've been a great tool for her to pass seed to other men. And it says, from various mythologies or more specific demons from a particular folklore tradition, it says, where green eyes are a defining feature. The green-eyed demon is a metaphorical phrase that refers to jealousy and envy. He said, that's what the green-eyed demon is. Jealousy and envy. It says, and often depicted as a destructive force that can consume a person. She works with Mustama. She works with Aydahchay, the consuming, to decay your flesh and destroy you. Aydahchay. She works with Aydahchay during Mustama. How you say, during Pesach, when he come through. She worked with Mustama. Seeing this, have you seen this being in your dreams? Right? Because they say her thing is envy and jealousy, right? Sirach 14:8. The envious man or woman has a wicked eye. How you say her iron? She has a wicked iron. And guess what? He turned away his face and despises men. Huh? You know how to say, I am done with men. You know how that is. You know how women say that? And it said right here, verse Sirach 18:18, a fool will upbraid churlishly, and a gift of the envious consumeth the eyes. Huh? The envious. From the envy person, it consumes your eye. It will blind your 7 eyes. Your 7 near. It'll darken your lamp. And he said the lamp of the wicked gonna be put out. Sirach 30:24, envy and wrath shortens life. It'll shorten your life. You say, man, why am I aging so fast? Because the Shadim is sucking the life out of you. The Iccubus demon is sucking the life out of you. The Succubus spirit is sucking the life out of you. It's shortening your life. It's using your body as an energy source. It shortens your life. And carefulness bringeth age before time. It makes you look old. It'll suck you out. And guess what it says? 1 Peter 2:1-3. So put away all malice, all deceit, and hypocrisy, envy, and slander. He said, you the green-eyed monster. You the night demon. Like newborn infants, long for the pure spiritual milk, that by it you may grow up into salvation. Indeed, if you have tasted that Yahuwah is good. James 3:16. For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist, he said the green-eyed Succubus and Iccubus demon. There will be disorder in every evil, every vile practice. It'll be vile because of these spirits. Galatians 5:18-21. But if you are led by the Ruach, you are not under the flesh, under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, the Succubus and Iccubus spirit, demon, fornication, adultery, incest, passing seeds from from one man to one woman to one woman to another man to pregnate another woman. All that's a part of it. Impurity, sensuality, idolatry, idol worship, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, the Succubus and Iccubus spirit and demon. Fits of anger, Succubus and Iccubus demon. They sent to destroy you and kill. Rivalries, dissension, divisions, envy, the Succubus and Iccubus demon. Drunkenness, orgies, and things like these, I warn you, and I warn you before, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. He said you will not be there. He said you will not be there. This is the gospel of Philip, truth of Philip. Verse 60. The mystery of marriage is similar to this. Those who are in pure marriages are honorable. For without this, one cannot find peace. Shalom. There's no way. Man is the main essence of everything on earth. Adam, the Ish. And the main earthly function of man is marriage. That's the main function of a man, is marriage. That's his earthly function. connives the pure marriage, for it has great power. As for its impure form, it exists only as an outer appearance, right? Because, impure form marriages only exist outwardly. It looks good, like astronaut. She looked good, feel good, but she was arrogant, proud, angry, got idol worship, and all types of things going on inside of her body. It looks good on the outward, though. It looked good. And it says, verse 61, among evil spirits, there are both male and female ones. How do you say Iccubus and Succubus demons? Male ones long for uniting with the souls which inhabit female bodies. Iccubus. And female spirits with the souls in male bodies, with those who live alone. They want to be alone. And a lot of people saying this, not even knowing that you just only a tool for Iccubus and Succubus spirits. He said that's where your demon comes from. People say, where does it come from? It says, and no one can run away from such spirits when they see an embodied soul. You can't run away from these spirits, as you can see. Unless they combine in themselves the power of man and woman in marriage. That's the only way. And guess what happens? Thus, one receives this power in a marriage, which is a symbolic prototype of uniting the bridal chamber. When primitive women see a man sitting alone, they come to him, flirt with him, and defile him. That's why I think Yusuf was like, get these women away from me. These women always want to fornicate with me. The Egyptian women, wives, marry, adultery, and fornication. That's all they want to do, and they want to molest me. In the same way, primitive men, when they see a beautiful woman sitting alone, molest, rape, and defile her. That's the same thing they do. That's the same. That's why you say you're Bethula, virgin. You're supposed to be a virgin Bethula inwardly. Inwardly, you need to be that. And guess what happens after that? You're going to have all types of spirits and beings trying to defile you when you're alone, when you sleep at night, when you by yourself, when they put thoughts in your mind, a smooth speech, when they shapeshift and transverse, when you be in the store and they just compliment you, and they say how beautiful you are, not even knowing they chose you for the night. They already picked you and they come into your room. They already picked you. And you be so flattered, and he say, your eye not open, and you're not seeing with your 7 eyes, and your near and your candle not burning. And by not seeing, you become a victim. And once they get inside of you, and it says right here, and it says, and they follow him. And in the same way, primitive men, when they see a beautiful woman, will sit alone, who's sitting alone, will lust and rape and defile her, either in your mind or in reality. And it says, continue on, verse 61. But if they see a husband and a wife sitting nearby, But if they see a husband and a wife sitting nearby, they do not approach them. He said, why don't they approach them when they're sitting together? In the same way, it can be when one unites by the consciousness with a malak, then no evil spirit dares come to such a man or woman. Unite in consciousness with a malak. But guess what happened? Those who have come out of the world cannot be seized by evil spirits. If you come out from the world, as it can happen with one is in the world, right? Now they are above passion and fear, right? They become masters of their own nature. He said you become masters of your body, yourself. They are above earthly desires. He said, man, they hate every man, they hate every woman, they despise and loathe them. He's like, get away from me. They'd be like, wow. Continued on. It says, sometimes it happens that evil spirits, seeing a single man and seize him, torture him, the succubus spirit. And how can he escape them, being subjugated to by his own desires and fear? He's like, you subjugated to him, because they're gonna take over your body. Why the woman was tormented for 5 years? Where can he hide from them? You can't hide from them. It happens often that some people come and say, we want to become believers in order to get rid of evil spirits and demons. But if the Qahalath Ruach been with them, then no evil Ruach would have cleaved to them. He said they can't even stay around you. They can't stay with you. He said they can come and try to attack you. They can't stay with you though. He said ain't no way. That's why he said he that is born of Yahuwah cannot keep on committing sin. He's like, I can't keep doing that. For 5 years, he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry, that's it. No more. We played the game. He's like, that's it. I'm done. And he says, verse 62, do not fear the flesh, right? That's what people say. That's what people do. Nor love it. If you fear it, it will become your master. Oh my gosh. He said, you fearing the flesh. It's gonna rule over you. If you love it, it will devour and subjugate you. It'll consume you on the outside. It'll consume you and subjugate you, and you'll be a servant to it. You're like, no, I'm not serving this. The works of the flesh. You see all the works of the flesh. There's so many of them, and people forget. Man, there's a lot of them. People like, yeah, that's a lot. And he said, it ain't going nowhere either. Right? So this, he said, as long as you're here in this life, right? Continue on with the Nicene Fathers, Volume 8, Apocrypha, New Testament, continue. And the Shalakim said, "O irreversible wickedness, O shameless of the enemy," because she asked him to pray for him. "O the sorcerer that is never at rest, of the ill-favored one, bring into subjection well-favored. O the many-formed one, he appears just as he may wish, but his essence cannot be changed. O offspring of the crafty, an insatiable one, a bitter tree, which also his fruits are like. O thou art of the devil, Satan, who fights over those who do not belong to him. O thou who art deceit, that use shamelessness. O thou who art of the wickedness, that creeps like a serpent, and art thyself his kindred." And when the Shalakim had thus spoken, the fiend stood before him, and no one seeing him but the woman and the Shalakim. He said, that's the only people who saw him. With a very loud voice, he said in the hearing of all, "What have we to do with thee, O Shalakim of the Most High? What have we to do with thee, O servant of Yahushua Mashiach? What have we to do with thee, O thou that sittest in the council of the Qahalath Ruach? Wherefore dost thou wish to destroy us, when our time has not yet come? On what account dost thou wish to take away our power? For until the present hour we have had hope, and time left us. We have," he says, "what we do with thee? Thou hast power over thine own, and we over our own. Why dost thou wish to use tyranny against us? And especially thou who teachest others not to use tyranny. Why dost thou want those who do not belong to thee, as if thou wert not satisfied with thine own? Why dost thou liken thyself to the son of Yahuwah, who has done us hurt? For thou art like altogether, just as one who has been brought forth by him. For we thought to bring him also under thy yoke, like the rest, but he turned and held us under his hand. For we did not know him, but he deceived us by the form which he had put on, and his poverty and his want. For when we saw him much, we thought him to be a man clothed with flesh, not knowing that it was he who makes men live. And he gave us power over our own, and in time in which we live, not to let our own go, but to employ ourselves about them. But thou wishest to get more than it is necessary, or that has been given thee in power over us." And having thus spoken, the demon wept, and I let thee go, my most lovely yokefellow, whom I found long ago, and I was at rest. And I leave thee, my beloved, and trusty sister, in whom I was well pleased. What shall I do? I know not. Or whom shall I call upon to hear me and protect me? I know what I shall do. I shall go to some place where the fame of this man has not been heard, and perhaps I shall call thee, my beloved, by a new name. And lifting up his voice, he said, Abide in Shalom, having received an asylum with a greater than I. But I, as I have said, will go away and seek thy like. And if I find her not, I shall again return to thee. For I know that when thou art beside this man, I know when thou art beside this man, thou hast an asylum in him. But when he has gone away, thou will be as thou was before he made his appearance. And him indeed will thou forget. And to me there will again be an opportunity in boldness. But now I am afraid of the name of him who has delivered thee. And having thus said, the demon disappeared. And just when he had disappeared, fire and smoke were seen there. And all that were present were struck with amazement. He said, fire and smoke were seen there. Right, this is Leviticus, Yaakov 23, 4 through 15. These are the appointed feasts of Yahuwah, the Qahalath convocation, which you shall proclaim as a time appointed for them. First month of the 14th day of the month at twilight is Yahuwah's Pesach. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of Chag of Yahuwah. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, Chag Matzah. He said lakam. He say unleavened bread, matzah on the first day. And you shall have a Qahalath convocation, and you shall do no ordinary work. But you shall present a food offering to Yahuwah for 7 days. And on the 7th day is the Qahalath convocation. You shall do no ordinary work. Verse 9. Chapter 9, verse 9. And Yahuwah spoke to Mashah, saying, Speak to the people of Yasharal and say to them, When you come to the land that I give you and to reap its Chdsh, you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruit of your harvest. Right? Chdsh of the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah. I say Nuf, and so that you may be accepted. On the day after the Shabbat, the priest shall wave it. And on the day when you wave your Nuf, your sheaf, your Amar, ye shall offer a male lamb of a year without blemish, that's Yahushua Mashiach, a burnt offering to Yahuwah, and a grain offering which ye shall be 2/10 of an ephah, and fine flour mixed with oil, and pleasing aroma. And a drink offering which ye shall be of wine. Verse 14, and ye shall eat it neither bread nor grain or parched fresh until the same day, until you have brought the offering of your Elohim is a statute forever throughout your generations in your dwellings. Ye shall count 7 full weeks from the day after the Shabath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. And ye shall count 50 days to the day after the Shabbat, this Shabbat. Then you shall present a grain offering to Yahuwah Elohim. Because 7 times 7 is 49. It says 7 weeks. 7 weeks. 7 days of a week times 7 weeks, right? So 7 days in a week times 7 is 49. At evening, it starts the 50th day. Right? Use the 13. So we know that's Yahushua Mashiach, right? Right, that word for sheaf is Omer. Right? Only reason I brought it here because that word Omer starts with an ayin. It starts with an ayin. The same thing as erev, evening. Same thing as abad, servant. It all starts with an ayin. Right, and many others. Right. Sheep. And you're supposed to count it for 7 days. Well, you're supposed to count it for 49 days straight. You're supposed to have a sheep every single day. They say counting Omer, right? It's teaching you over and over again how to do an offering. And it's a sheep, and they start with an ayin, and you got to see it. Ayin Ishlapi, right? You got to see it. If you don't see it, he said you got to see it there. Right? This is not of much watching. It don't stop. It's continuing, right? And it says right here that word for pleasing aroma, that word for pleasing is nikoach. It means soothing, quieting, tranquilizing. That's what it is. Try soothing. Notice it says soothing, quieting your mind, tranquilizing, restful. We don't want the other things to rest in our mind. Pleasant. Right. Sweet odors, right? Like aromatherapy, right? Right. The word for aroma is rayach. 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 It means scent, fragrance, aroma. Savor, scent. Savor, scent, to smell. Nice scent that it gives off. Why? Just like the perfume of the virgins, when they had the cosmetic and all the soaps and all the things that they had, they had to present themselves a certain way to do the offering every single month. And he said, if you merge your mind with a malaki, right, all this is all part of this whole protection type of life. That's all it is. It's just protection. Right? He said, they had the gun on their side. They'd be like, you got your protection? He said, nah, I got my protection on the inward man if I continue to use it. You know, I said, you don't, he said, I got a protection, but I don't use it. He said, then you ain't trained in it. But, right, this Ode to Solomon, last slide. Ode Shalom, Ode to Solomon 35, 1 through 7. The sprinkling of Yahuwah overshadowed me with serenity. That's what this offering is. And it caused a cloud of shalom, peace, to stand over my head. Shalom. That it might guard me at all times. And it became my salvation to me. Everyone was disturbed and afraid, and there flowed from them smoke and judgment. They were all scared, and they started saying things. That's like that Shadim was talking. I'm going to come back. And they ain't afraid to say it. But it says, but I was tranquil in Yahuwah's legion with his malaki. He said, when the Ruach come upon you, he said, you know, evil spirit they're coming to touch you. Or you attack you. If they do attack you, I am tranquil in Yahuwah's legion. That's why he told you in Proverbs, my son and daughter, don't lose sight of these things. Yahuwah made the sharmans in the earth, the sea and everything in it. He said, when all these things come upon the earth, he said, he would not suffer your foot to get trapped. He said, when you go to sleep, your sleep won't be sweet. Yo, it says, I was comforting Yahuwah's legion. More than the shade was he to me, and more than foundation itself. And I was carried like a child by my mother, and he gave me milk, the dew of Yahuwah. Desire to see milk of the word, you may grow thereby. And I grew strong in his favor, and rested in his perfection. Right, that's what happened to Asenath. She grew up, and she grew into her perfective person that she needed to be. And then guess what happened after that? And I extended my hands in the ascent of myself. He said, I extended my yad and my kaf, my two hands, and extended myself. And I directed myself near the Most High Yahuwah. He said, I'm going to stay right near him. Why? And I was saved near him. What happened to the woman? She prayed. He said, please pray. And Charlotte, can you pray? And she stayed. He said, as long as you near him, he said, you know what happens? Until the Ruach comes upon you, then he don't need to be near you. But he said, near the Most High Yahuwah, I was saved near him. So that's why Yahusha said in John 9:41, he said, being that you say you see, you'll get me. He said, I come to open the eyes of the blind. He said, but being that you say you see, he said, we blind. And the scribe and the Pharisee said, are we blind also? He said, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But being that you say we see, you got your iron open. You can see your Omer, your iron. You can see your Abyd. You can see, you got Arab already. You can already see already, right? He said, your guilt remains. He said, your iron open. He said, your guilt remains. Right, so we look at all that. We look at Yahushua Mashiach. Look at the light of life. Look at the true light, which light every Ish, man and woman, who comes into the path. That the perfection of the light and the oil and the Ruach HaKodesh can be poured out upon their heart. For even in Yukanani mercy, Yahushua Mashiach, he said, behold, the Lamb of Yahuwah, the Sah of Yahuwah will take away the sin of the world. He said, this is I, whom I said before me comes another. Who was before me? Because he was before everybody. He was before Shaloma and everybody. He was before Abraham and Adam. But he gave us life and understanding within ourselves, and he gave us the truth within our heart and our mind. That we may katab and write it on our heart and our mind, that we may recite it to ourselves and to the beings and the demons and shadim that try to attack and try to come. But just like 2nd Enoch says, in your afflictions walk, and your attacks walk. And the things that you lose, he said walk. He said, then your light will shine 7 times brighter than the sun. So we look at our life, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward being, we look at our inward thoughts. And as Asenath prayed and she confessed her sins, remove all idols and all arrogance and anger from her mind and her thoughts. And as she removed all those things, she removed all of it from her heart and her mind. And she put on the proper attire. She presented herself to Yahushua Mashiach, or she presented herself to Yahushua with a proper mind, and a proper thought, and proper understanding, to understand what it takes to be a virgin more beautiful than all virgins on the earth. For Yahuwah desires us to be, he said, but virgins when he appears. Why? There are 10 virgins. 5 are wise and 5 are foolish. 5 kept the lamps continually burning. 5, I say, lost it. In the darkness of errors, in the darkness of the world, consumed them. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward man, we look at our inward life, and we seek to walk in love, and seek to walk in faithfulness, seek to walk in gentleness, seek to walk in self-control, to be self-controlled in everything. He said, eyes open. He said, iron. But then at the same time, he said, when the night watch comes, he said, one needs to be watching and looking and having their mind fixed on things above and not on things on the earth. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth.